B'shut Rabbi Mori, Rabbi Zargari, Shebizchuto Hayom, we all got together today. I wanted to call up a very choshev Talmid Chacham that not too many of us know about, Rabbi Avraham Isakian, originally from Los Angeles. As you guys all know, Rabbi Zargari is also from the Los Angeles community. So we all know Rabbi Netaneli, Rabbi Eliyahu Netaneli, but Baruch Hashem, we don't need any introduction. Misha Makir Rabbi Eliyahu Netaneli, we don't have to introduce who our next guest speaker is. He learned also in Baltimore and eventually made his way to Eretz Yisrael. And Baruch Hashem, he has a call here in Sanhedria.
Asher koyach for the introduction. Bruchim habayim and welcome to this quite unique convention of the Bnei Torah, Dat Bnei Paras, that we decided, it's an opportunity while the Rav Zargari is here from LA, that we get together and have a night of learning and appreciating about the history of our Edah, the Adat Yehudei Paras. Actually, as some of you might know, the Persian Jewish community is actually the oldest community in Chutz La'aretz, from back in the middle of the first Beit HaMikdash. In the time of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, the first galut of Melech Ashur of the Aseret HaShevatim, the Pasuk says in Melachim that one of the places that they were exiled was Arei Madai. And the Gemara, both in Kiddushin and Yevamot, identifies Arei Madai as Hamadan and Nalvan cities till today in modern day Iran. So we're discussing a community that's basically been around for almost 2,600 years. Till today, that there's a Jewish community still in Iran and the Persian communities all over the world that are continuing the traditions of the Edah. Unfortunately, there is a very big misconception about the whole history of the Iranian Jews. And there is an overall impression that during the whole galut of Iran, no, there wasn't really Talmidei Chachamim, no poskim, no yeshivot. Gemara, never heard of, people learning Gemara there. Shulchan Aruch, Halacha. There is such an impression that people have both in our community and out of our community. So what I would like to do tonight is explore history and paint a whole different picture than people have, the impression that people have. And really, when you appreciate your roots, when you appreciate where you're coming from, really what that does, it's not stam we're getting together to, know what was going on in our grandparents and great-grandparents, country. Be'etzem, what we're doing is being mechazek our kesher to Har Sinai. The whole transmission of our Misorah, that we are the Am HaNivchar, we have Torat Hashem, is handed from generation to generation. And if we strengthen the connection we have and the confidence we have and the pride we have with the generations that we're coming from, it's be'etzem mikasher to us a stronger kesher to Har Sinai and to Matan Torah. So there's a very, very holy purpose of understanding your roots and understanding the past, the generations of the past. I would like to start by sharing with you a teshuvah, halachic teshuvah, that was written in 5723, which is 1863 leminyanam. There was a question in Echot Kiddushin that was written with a very nice, prolific teshuvah by a certain chacham at that time, and that teshuvah was sent to two of the great poskim, Rab Chaim Falaji and Rabbi David Chazan. Both printed this teshuvah in their Sfarim, Chaim V'Shalom and Nediv Lev. The teshuvah has a lot of bekut there, knowledge of Klalei Ora'ah, no less than any of the Achronim of the time. And Rab Chaim Falaji and the Nediv Lev, they both agreed to the maskana of this chacham, the teshuvah that was written in Chot Kiddushin. Now, if you were to read this teshuvah, someone bring you the teshuvah without knowing who wrote it, and someone say, to try to guess from which country this teshuvah came from one of the eastern countries. So let's say maybe Syria, maybe Eretz Israel, maybe Egypt, maybe Turkey. But believe it or not, this teshuvah, with all the bikut and the knowledge of halakha, was written by the posek of Tehran, Iran, in that year, whose name was Rabbi Elazar Chaim Hamedani. Something that most people wouldn't believe. It was a teshuvah of one of the achronim that's printed in the Sfei Achronim, that was written by the Moreh Tzedek of Tehran. And he sent this she'ela with the teshuvah to Rabbi Chaim Falaji, and to get his response, and also to Nediv Lev, and they actually responded and they agreed to his psak. Now, just to give you an idea of which svarim he had, what he used, I'll just give you a list of svarim you would never think existed in Iran, Tehran, in 1860s. Shulchan Aruch, okay, Shulchan Aruch, you'll say fine. Marit Al-Ghazi, Mara Sasson, Marnach, Lev Sameach, Marjdam, Chut Meshulash, Mishpat Tzedek, Bet Yehuda, Pri Adma, Pnei Moshe, Marimat, Mari Basan Lekat Kemach Divrei Emet, Chikri Lev, Radbaz Piaretz, Admat Kodesh, Achin Boaz, Mishchad Ravuta. These are all the achronim that he quotes in the Teshuvah, besides the few Rishonim that he quotes. So somebody would think you're crazy if you told him that there's a posek I found in 1860 that quotes all the achronim. What posek? What he's quoting all these poskim, and he's writing like any achron. So this already is a black and white testimony, documented, that there are poskim in Iran, there's Talmidei Chachamim, that are pasking halacha based on the Gedolei poskim like all the other achronim. It also testifies that there was a connection, there was a kesher with the poskim in Iran and the poskim out of Iran. Chaim Falaji, one of the Gedolei poskim, was sent a she'ela from somebody in Iran. So somebody who thinks that there was totally disconnected and there was no chachamim, yeah, black and white testimony documented in the Shut Chaim V'Shalom of Chaim Falaji and Nediv Lev of David Chazan. There was another teshuvah in the Sefer Pnei Yitzchak. This is Rabbi Yitzchak Abulefi of Damascus in Syria. He has a teshuvah there that he was asked from the city of Hamadan regarding a dayan in the city of Hamadan his time. It's the same tkufa, I believe, in the 1860s, I believe. And there was some kind of opposition to this dayan, and he writes a whole very lengthy teshuvah to back up the dayan, defend him, and he said they tried to maybe get him out of his position. He says, no, he said in the teshuvah, he says, I personally know him, and there's no way he would paskin and give a wrong ruling in the bedin. So again, one of the Gedolei Poskim and the Achronim saying he had a connection with the Dayan of Hamadan, and saying, backing him up, that there's no way you could say he's not a good Dayan. Another very chashuv sefer is a sefer that was just printed 3 years ago, and really it's a historical sefer. A sefer published containing the halachic teshuvot and rulings from a Chacham and Dayan in Hamadan of David Sasson Rabban. He lived from the years 1879 to 1974. Piskei Chacham David Sasson Rabban. Here we have. This is the sefer. Now, Rav Mordechai Lebar in LA, head of Machon Agin Avot, he went ahead and published it from manuscripts preserved by the grandchildren. And in the Tshuvot, you see he had a very broad knowledge of Shas, Poskim, and a few times he writes there, Lechu el Yosef kol asher yomar lachem ta'asu, which is coming to refer to the Kabbalah Torah Maran HaShulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo. So here again, another example, in Hamadan there was a Bedin, you see, that dealt with halachic matters. He would send Tshuvot to other cities even, not only Hamadan, other cities around, and other places in Iran would send him shilot and he would answer them. So there was halachic guidance in Iran. Here, this is now a sefer we have printed with, again, more and more backing and testimony to the Torah there was in Iran. Now, it should be noted the inyan of Kabbalah Torah Shulchan Aruch, the Chida already writes in Shem HaGdolim that one of the places that are Mekabel Shulchan Aruch is Arei Paras. Also, in the Teshuvah of Rav Elazar Chaim that we mentioned, he also refers to that we follow Maran. There's another letter from the grandson of Orav Or Shraga that says, Afilu neged elef poskim we hold a Maran. So this all comes to clearly indicate that there's a widespread awareness of what's Shulchan Aruch and what's Kabbalah Torah. How could If there's no awareness, what's halacha, what's Shulchan Aruch, the Chida come and saying, Are Paras, Shulchan Aruch. And if they don't know what's Shulchan Aruch, which is, Derech Agav, contrary to what people think, that the Fida Chida, there's another Chida somewhere that says they're all Amei Aretz, and everybody likes to quote that Chida, which we're going to mention in Sefer Yehudei Iran, that he has a whole piece on that Chida. But the Chida writes, they were Mekabel Orod Maran in Paras, and other Achronim also concur to this. That means there was awareness, communal awareness, what's Shulchan Aruch, what's Kabbalat Torah. So all this gives us a totally different picture of what was in Iran than a lot of people have. Whoever wants could purchase the Sefer we have for sale here after the lectures, which includes a Hakdama from Avishai Shraga in LA about the history of Iran. And the Rav has Rav Zargari has a letter there, other Rabbanim wrote stuff there. And in the back, Baruch Hashem Rezoche, B'siyat Dishmaya, to have a kuntras that we put together with Yosef Chaim Balanes on the Minagim of Iran and the Mikorot. So we have it here for sale, whoever is interested. There are a lot of other sources that we see there about the Rabbanim in Iran. In the time of the Rishonim, there was a Binyamin Mitudila. He has a sefer about his travels. And he writes about the Rav of Esfahan. He says the Rav of Esfahan was the head of, on top of all the other Rabbanim. Esfahan, I believe back then was the capital, if I'm not mistaken. And he says the Rav of Esfahan was appointed by the Resh Galut of Bavel, which means there was a clear system of Rabbanim that was being appointed by the Resh Galut of Bavel, which says that they were connected to the other places. Bavel, which was in 1100, still there was Torah there, even though the Gaonic area already ended. But there was Torah, and the Rishonim, the time of the Rishonim, there was a connection. Bavel, and we know many of the Minagim of Iran and Iraq are similar, and they were mushpa from the Gaonim. In the 1500s, there's a Tshuva from the Maritatz, who talks about a Chacham that was appointed by Chachmei Eretz Yisrael to be the Moreh and to be Ladun in a few countries, including Paras Umadai. So again, the Chachmei Eretz Yisrael were supervising, so to speak, the halachic guidance also in Paras Umadai. If we go to a little bit more modern history, Derech Agav, there's an interesting, in the Yad Ramah, in the end of Sanhedrin, which is a Rishon, he brings a she'elah that was in the time of the Rishonim in Spain. He lived, Spain. He brings a she'elah that was sent to him from Esfahan about the Shita of the Rambam Tchiat HaMetim. So we see how much they were connected even to Spain in the times of the Rishonim. So to say they were disconnected and they were not completely false notions. Yeah, they were connected to Spain, to Bavel, to Turkey, Rav Chaim Falaji, and they had their own poskim. Now going into more modern times, Arav Avram Chacham, who has a sefer, here we have Sefer Yisraeli. He lived in the city of Kermanshah. He came there from Sanandaj to Kermanshah to become the Rav. And in the Hakdama over there, it talks about how he made a yeshiva in Kermanshah. They learned Gemara, he had Talmidim. He wrote a very beautiful Perush. This sefer is on Chumash. It's very beautiful, and in a lot of his Perushim, Derech Agav, you see what was going on in Iran in his time, and he talks about. So it's an interesting sefer, also historic sefer.
What year did he live?
This is around 100 years ago, that he was in Kermanshah. Also in Kermanshah, they bring that there was another Chacham in that time, Chacham Aqajan ben David. Now this Sefer Israel, he said he was out of Zalvaya, and he described in the following Lashon, Maran ha-mekubal ha-eloki ha-tzadik ve'anav b'tachlit ha-chokhmah. Someone being described in Iran 100 years ago, Maran ha-mekubal ha-eloki. And it's brought down that he was a Baki in Shas, in Sefer Yehudei Iran, we're talking Baki in Shas. He learned Bavli, Yerushalmi, Deyanai, and he had Talmidim. Kermanshah in Iran 100 years ago. In Shiraz, we have the Chacham over there, Avraham Melamed HaKohen, in the late 1800s, the early 1900s. He has a few Sfarim that Rav Shmuel is going to show us, Kisei Rachamim and other Sfarim, that it's also written about him that he learned Shas at a young age. He learned Gemara, he learned Shas. They had Shas, and also other Rabbanim in his time it's brought down. They knew Shas. There was a Rav in Tehran, Rav Chaim Moreh. Chaim Moreh, despite being blind, he authored a few Sfarim also around 100 years ago. And you have some Sfarim that were published in Iran. all different topics, including psakim from Shulchan Aruch. There's a sefer, Chachmei Paros of Afghanistan, that found on Otzar Chochmah, that brings down other few Chachamim that he talks about their lives. Rabbi Mullah Simantov Melamed, Mullah Mordechai Agalar of Mashhad, both of them. Mullah Chaim Elazar from Tehran, Mullah Menachem Elevi of Hamadan. There's many more names that, we don't have the time now to talk about each one, but many names. And this is all the ones we know of. Because there's not so much history recorded, there's certainly many Chachamim over the generations that we don't even know of. This is just to give us the glimpse of what was going on. Now, I must introduce a sefer. I want to introduce a sefer, Yehudei Iran Safrut Rabbanit, by Dr. Daniel Tzadik Alav Shalom. Unfortunately, we didn't have the zechut for him to be with us from a couple of years ago. Fortunately, we lost him. But a few years back, 6 years ago, he printed this sefer. And the whole sefer is dedicated to this topic, to show from hundreds of sources that he dug up from all kinds of archives and universities and manuscripts and sfarim, how there were so many, places that there was Torah knowledge, even small yeshivot here and there, Talmidei Chachamim, Gemara, Zohar. If anybody wants to, at length, study the topic, this is the sefer. It's sold by Mossad Arav Kook, who published the sefer. Another important point is the connection that they had with other countries that you see from many tshuvot in the times of the Achronim that were sent sheilot to Chachamim outside of Iran. I'll just give you a list of the sheilot to tshuvot Achronim that bring sheilot from Iran that they answer. Shut Mabit, Shut Radbaz, Shut Marim Alshich, this is in the time of the Beit Yosef, Chut HaMeshulash, Zivchei Tzedek, the Rev of the Ben Ish Chai, Maaseh Bedin, Yesh Ma'ayin, and Shut Rab Pa'alim. Right? More than all, many tshuvot of the Ben Ish Chai were sent to Iran, mostly to Yazd. So I hope that through this we have a better recognition that what's our past, our rich past, our heritage, that we had halachic guidance, we had Talmidei Chachamim. Unfortunately, I believe the main reason that there's such an impression of the Amaratzut, and because in the last generation there became such a modernism in Iran, so people already don't know what's happening before that, as Rabbi Zagari has talked about before. I'm sure he has what to say again tonight. And also, the fact that it seems there was no Sfarim printed in Iran, probably because of the Oni, the poverty there was there, and the lack of Jewish publishing houses anywhere in the area, so everything stayed in manuscripts and got lost eventually. And this is probably the reason, the main primary reasons that we have, a lot of people have the impression that there was nothing there, but here we have documented in many sources, and this Sefer Yehudei Iran at length brings many sources to eradicate this misconception. So Be'ezrat Hashem, hope that this could give us more of a pride and a connection to our past and give us a chizuk to go on. At this point, we'd like to introduce our special guest speaker here tonight, all the way from Los Angeles. David Zargari really does not need an introduction. After 4 decades of Batzat Torah, so we're going to invite him. Baruch Hashem, we have the zechut to have him to speak tonight, to give us divrei chizuk for the Persian community. B'chavod Rav Zargari.
First of all, I'm really already very inspired being here. I mean, it's very interesting. When I came to LA, Hacham Yedidia told me, it says, Ki mitzion tetze Torah kashan Yazd. He didn't mention Shiraz as far. Okay, anyway. That's what he said. Ki mitzion kashan and Yazd. He was from Kashan and I was from Yazd, Kerman. So he missed everything, Anyway, it's really, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And as, you see, there's a story about Winston Churchill, I think everybody knows. When he came here in 1922, came to Israel, then he wasn't the prime minister, was part of the parliament. And he went to the Jewish places, he went to Arabs, etc. Then he wanted to see Tel Aviv. Everybody knows the story. So the mayor of Tel Aviv, wow, Churchill is coming there. There were no trees there. It was a newly, he went and he imported from Petach Tikva Ema Moshavot, I don't know, a few hundred palm trees, California style. And they planted it, I think Sderot Kakal, I don't know where in Tel Aviv. Right before he came, they brought it, they planted. Churchill comes, and everybody wanted to see Churchill, right? So some of the young people started climbing on these palm trees, and all of them fell. Nobody was hurt. It was Churchill's turn to speak. And Churchill says, I think your God is giving you a message. You guys came from Europe, here, there. You need roots. If you don't have roots, you're going to fall. This is from Winston Churchill. And it connects very, very much to what Rabbi Yitzchakian said. It's we don't have roots. That's it. It's so important that we have roots, Baruch Hashem. It's mamash, it's detrimental. You see, I'm here, why? And I recently wrote a kuntras. I think HaKadosh Baruch Hu put me in this for this purpose of this kuntras. Because I was born in Iran and then Israel, coming here, and somehow HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I was involved in after the revolution, etc. And you see, the title of this kuntras is Lo Tishachach Mipi Zar'o. Thank you. Lo Tishachach Mipi Zar'o. And I wrote it in Hebrew. And the subtitle is something like, I read it Hebrew, I'm most comfortable in Hebrew. Korot ha'ithavut shel kehilot ha'toraniyot all over the world in this generation. Basically, I'm writing this kuntras for the youth, wherever, Persians that came to America. Right? And basically, this kuntras is based, the core of it, it's a letter that Rav Levi said. Basically, I'm saying in this kuntras, right? Lo tishachach mipi zar'o. Everybody knows the Gemara at the end of Masechet Shabbat, right? The thought tishachach Torah, etc., etc. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai got up and said, "Chas v'chalila, Torah would never be forgotten. There's a promise, lo tishachach mipi zar'o." So you see, basically, what I do in this kuntras is to give some background. There's no chidushim, nothing, right? It's basically I write and I explain there, like, what happened to the Persian Jews when they got out of the Mahalleh. I think this was a very sensitive. I write there something from you see, in Europe there was a machlokas what bracha to make an emancipation, right? Everybody knows. Chasson Sofer said it's Baruch Dayan Haemet, emancipation, Jews coming out of Galut. In Rabbi Shimon Far Hirsch, Farkert, so to Shechianu. We could use these new opportunities. So then I tie in Iran, the problem was at that moment, people didn't know how to make brachot. This is before the revolution, again. I mean, we know, we all, in Iran, before revolution, it was disaster. And my father, people disagree with me, but my father was saying before the revolution in Tehran, maybe there were 10 Shomer Shabbat families, Keil Cheta. I don't know. This is from my father, and I don't think it's far from truth. Shiraz probably was better, maybe, I don't know. Even though I hear from Rabbalanes, it was all over. What caused, and the reason they didn't know how to make berachot is because there was no yeshivot there. Right? So then, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mamash Rav HaAliliyah, we have to be so thankful to Hashem. Mamash, it's unbelievable. I mean, the story of what happened to our community, it could inspire. I've spoken about this to Ashkenaz, Americans in LA, and they were inspired, right? I mean, it's really basically I spoke in Baltimore when the yeshiva honored me, and then I made the thing out of that. But you see, it's like, there is a promise, Lo tishachach mipi zar'o. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu Borei Olam do when he sees his precious Persian Jews, right, came out of the Mahallehs and they left everything in the Mahalleh? They left their Yiddishkeit in the Mahalle. Rav Chiyabun, that's it. Right. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? Hashem sent 2 shlichim. First one, his name was Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Halevi, a Chassidish Yid. And he was, my whole contrast is based on a letter that Rav Levi writes in the year Tafshin Hey, 80 years ago. Rav Levi writes a letter. I should have, it's going to be in the print in the contrast, right? That, the letter is to Vad Hatzala, to Rav Herzog Zatzal, and Rav Aaron Kotler. He writes in that, he says, Kvod HaRabbanim Chashuvim, Rabban Shekol Ben Agola, the mission that you sent me to Iran, to Iran for the Russian Jews, they sent him. They didn't send Rav Levi for the Persian Jews. They sent him to Iran to go to help, the Bnei Torah in Russia. That was the purpose. He is the one, Rav Levi brought the Chebinei Rav, right? He had contacts with the Shah. He brought the Chebinei Rav to Tehran, and he stayed in Arya family, not the Shirazi areas, the Kashi areas. Racham was saying Kibbutz Zion, Kasha. He said there was a prominent Arya family in Tehran. Do we have any?
One of the Aryas there.
Wow. Okay. I heard from Rabbi Kramer. He's told me that it was Arya family. I then, this is my source. You know Rabbi Kramer, Yoel Kramer. I don't know if you know. Anyway, so. And from Tehran, he sent him to Eretz Yisrael. So Rav Levi writes in that letter, Rabotai, the mission accomplished. I did what you sent me for Russia. But meanwhile, he says, I hear in Iran, I see so many Jews, and these Jews they're so interested in Yiddishkeit. He writes, I went, and he says in Hamadan actually, I think, he writes, I spoke for 4 hours. Apparently maybe it was Purim time, I don't know. He says maybe there are 2,000 people were listening to him. And he says I was speaking for 4 hours and I had to stop. People were crying. They are thirsty for Torah. They have so much Yirat Shamayim. Kind of like, about the Chidah, right? You see, Dr. Tzaddik, basically, he wants to say that, he's not talking, that Chidah is not talking about Iran, he's talking about, okay, fine. Anyway, but this we know that Am Haratzut, when I was growing up, and maybe all know, go to shul, people don't know anything. They don't know how to Kaddish. And we all know that. But you see, so Rav Levi writes in that letter, and this is, to me, it's the most... First time I read that, I started crying. Rav Levi writes in 80 years ago, he writes, Rabotai, this is post-Holocaust. We lost all the Olam HaYeshivot and the Kollelim, etc. In Europe, right, it's gone. I see by the Persian Jews there is the potential to rebuild that Torah that was lost in Europe. And he says, Rabbi Aaron, sent me $50,000 a year. I'm going to go and start and build schools in Iran. Rabbi Aaron Kotler connected him to Rav Mendelowitz. Rav Mendelowitz, right, from Torah Vadas. He had, I think, Yitzchak Shalom, somebody, a Syrian Jew, that had donated, I think, maybe $50,000 to Torah Vadas. He diverted it to Iran. Rav Levi gets the money, and he starts building schools all over Iran. I met Rav Levi's son in LA almost 40 years ago. I just moved to LA. I was in Fastman's Kollel. I was on Beverly Boulevard. I had seen Rav Levi. We were like little kids. Rav Levi was our Rebbe. What? The father I had seen. The famous Rav Levi, my father was a teacher by him. He was like our Rebbe. We would go, my father would take us. Purim, Chanukah would give us Purim geld. Pitom I see in Los Angeles, Rav Levi is his son looked exactly like him. I couldn't believe it. I took him home, he just passed away, 90 years old. Anyway, so he says his son told me that once they were walking and he says, Abba, come on, you're only, you walk like an old man. He said, don't look at my age. He said, in Iran, I worked so hard that I'm already 70, 80 years old.
He lived in Iran?
What?
He's still in Iran?
Who?
Levi. Oh, the father.
Just
80 years ago when he got the money and he lived there?
Yes. See, he was at the time. He had then brought his wife there. Sure, Rav Levi for maybe I don't know exactly, maybe for 10 years. I don't know. At least he lived in Iran. Sure, he lived in Iran. People know that in Tehran. The people tell me in my shul that they were in the same kuche. They lived next to each other. Yeah, he lived in Iran. He had a mikveh in his house. He lived in Iran. But you see, it's amazing. He planted the seeds. He's the one that brought Chacham and Eli from Yerushalayim back to Iran. Chacham Chaim Ben Chaim. He would take Bnei Torah from. You have to come to Iran. And locals, my father, and a lot of all the Utzarata teachers, and he not only that he was giving, he had the Utzarata schools, even the Alliance schools, he would give them the Limudei Kodesh teachers. So he's one person to be credited to this miracle that we see now. Now, anywhere you go in the world, top yeshivot, there is not a yeshiva that doesn't have Persian Jews, right? Rosh Kolelim, yeshiva. In Lakewood, there are over 120 Persian Avrechim. In Lakewood, New Jersey, right? And you have Baltimore, you have wherever you go, any major yeshivot, without exceptions, they have Persians. That's in America. In Israel, I don't have to tell you. My nephew told me today, he said, in Yerushalayim, most of the Bnei Yeshiva Sfaradim are Persians. That's what he said. He said in Yerushalayim, but you see, this is the point, but it wasn't. It's zechut that, Rav Levi planted the seeds. This was the first shaliach. I don't want to take your time. The second shaliach is more nogea to America. And you see, his name was Rabbi Neuberger, Rabbi Naftali Neuberger, the Menahel of Yeshivat Nei Israel. So here I get involved. You see, 1975, I came to Yerushalayim, and unfortunately I didn't go to yeshivot here. I came here, I went to Bat Bachti, the T school, and then Hebrew U. People want to meet that, but that's I came here in 1967, a few months after 6-Day War. How did I come? Did I come here? Because Rav Levi had brought shlichim of Sochnut to Iran. Rav Tzvi Kitov, the son of Rav Eliyahu Kitov, that wrote a lot of Sfarim. He was my Rebbe in Tehran. 1965, he taught us Hamaniach Takad. Hamaniach Takad, B'Shut Harabim. Hainu Kad. One of my friends made this Persian song. Hainu Kad, Hainu Chavit, Hainu Kad, Hainu Chavit. This was Tehran, circa 1965. He taught, and he wanted to bring my whole class to Yerushalayim, to Yeshivat Merom Tzion in Beit Vegan. The war in 1967, nobody came. He just brought me. He brought me, Rav Tzvi Kitov. First, he put me in a Yeshivat Tichonit Sfaradit. That was in Rehov Zhabotinsky, Shloshim, in Talbiya. That yeshiva closed, and I went to Bat Bachti Dati, to Bet Sefer Hayo Emel Farm. I think the ex-Ramatkal graduated from my school. Anyway, so I graduated from there, and unfortunately, he told me to go to yeshiva. I said, what to go to yeshiva? What did you go to yeshiva for? The only people that were in yeshiva there, it was Chacham Netzah and Eli's sons, and I think the Arya family of Shlomo Arya, These were the only ones. I went to Hebrew U, graduated. Then 1975, I come to America. For what? I wanted to get my MBA and come back to Israel. And okay, I don't want to go there. Anyway, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Borei Olam brings me to Baltimore. I went to yeshiva, Rabbi Eisman, he told me, I didn't have any background. Just, for Bagrut, you had to do, 20, 30 blood Gemara, So he told me go to Shar Yashuv. But then it was another Rav spoke to him, he fired me, and then he called Rabbi Neuberger. And he says, Rabbi Naftali, I have a Bachur here from Israel, Iran, he fits in our Shur Aleph. So Rabbi Neuberger said, send him over with his German accent. He was delighted to see me. Why? This is unbelievable. A few months, in March of 75, Rabbi Neuberger comes to visit in Iran. What is Rabbi Neuberger? What does he have to do in Iran? The Shah, I don't know whether it says Zichron Livracha or not, I don't know. You should know. You see, I remember I was a little kid. I was together with Hacham Netan Eli and Hacham Ben Chaim. And they said Shohan Shoheh on the TV, and Chacham Ben Chaim spit. Because they were blaming the Shah because he gave all the emancipation to the Persian Jews. I remember I was a little kid. I couldn't believe it. Chacham Ben Chaim spit when the Shah was, Anyway, so where are we? Okay, so Rabbi Neuberger. So what is Rabbi Neuberger doing in Iran? The Shah wanted to take over all the religious schools. He saw with Khomeini what's happening, etc. He couldn't just take over the Muslim schools. He wanted to take the Jewish schools also, to make it like government schools. So Otzar Torah was an American organization. They sent Rabbi Neuberger with a few senators. They came to Tehran, and they went to the Shah, and they said, hands off. You don't touch Otzar Torah schools. Rabbi Neuberger was very influential with senators, etc. But meanwhile, Rabbi Neuberger sees there's a kind of midbar in Iran. Then Rabbi Neuberger thinks, I'm going to bring a group of boys from Iran. America was America. I'm going to bring them to Ner Israel, make them Rabbanim, and send them back to Iran to make a revolution in Iran. Rabbi Neuberger doesn't know what is happening with the revolution, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in mind. And so he was very happy to see me, right? This is exactly what he wants. Somebody who, is in yeshiva already, speaks Persian, So Rabbi Neuberger, not knowing anything about what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in plans, the revolution, etc. So Rabbi Neuberger brought 6 boys. I came 75, 77, 2 years later, 77, 78, he brought 12 boys, 6 from Tehran, 6 from Shiraz, right? Came, and I was like the older brother for them. I taught them how to wear a tie, to open bank accounts, and also, I was in Rabbi Sachar's Chabura, so I would gather them and would give them some. This was my first practice in Rabbanut, actually, saying over Rabbi Sachar's. Anyway, and you see these guys, this. But the plan was to send them back to Iran. Then the revolution happened, and Ner Yisrael, NIR, Israel Republican College, became Neuberger's Iranian refugee camp. We have over 120, 30 Persian boys came to the yeshiva, and the yeshiva took them lovingly. And then we were full. So then Rabbi Neuberger got Aguda involved, other yeshivot got involved, etc., etc. And you see, just to make a long story short, Tafshin Ein Chet, we had the convention. So far, this is the first convention of Persian rabbis in North America. We had over 50 rabbanim in attendance from all over, from New York, Atlanta, Baltimore, all over. And you look at the pictures, I'm going to have it in the contrast, I think 40 or something are Ner Yisrael graduates. Right? That this is, you don't realize, it's such a miracle. Now in America we have probably well over 120 Persian shuls, probably much more. Not one is not yeshivish. I mean, okay, we don't have any conservative or reform. We don't have any. This is a major, major accomplishment, right? And it's not like, Mizrahi, it's yeshivish, black hat. In Baltimore, in LA, we have probably close over 30 shuls we have. And kolelim, and Baruch Hashem, young, and everybody is, the story has changed completely. You see, now, just recently, an American came to my show, he says, wherever I go, the Persians, they're also learned. Right? You see, he was saying, he was comparing it to to other Galiyot, to Moroccans, this and that came to, but it's really, we have to be, Hodu Hashem Kitov Masto, עושה נפלאות לבדו, כי לעולם חסו. הקדוש ברוך הוא pulls the strings. Sends Rav Levi to Iran. I believe Rabbi Neuberger also. When it comes to Torah in America, definitely the zechut goes to Rabbi Neuberger and the other Rashi Yeshiva. And anyway, I came here more to hear maybe there's some things I could add to my contrast, but I think you guys have to think of something, a much bigger picture, and really to come out with a book. And it has to be in English. Forget about Persian. We want, the new generation, these kids that are born, we don't know anything. And so many guys I've said, where is the contrast? They want to know the roots. And we have to make sure that these roots are strong, right? If there are no roots, all these palm trees are going to fall, right? And Be'ezrat Hashem is going to bring Mashiach closer. Thank you.
Chazak u'baruch to Rav Zargari for the chizuk and the words of wisdom. Our bracha is that he should continue to manhig the community with hatzlacha, b'briut ad biat gol tzedek. Hatzlacha and the yeshiva as well that they've started, the sons have started. Hatzlacha and all the kol ha'inyanim, Tashbar and all the peuliyot of the keilah over there, B'ezrat Hashem in Los Angeles. Before I introduce the next speaker, I want to add one more thing that I omitted by the Chachamim, is that I forgot to mention the inyan of the Chachmei Yazd. Chachmei Yazd is a story by itself, but the most famous is Mullah Oshraga, that the history says that his ancestors actually came from Poland to a different city in Iran and then ended up having to run away then to Yazd. And he was known to be Baal Muftim, Gilu Eliyahu, and all his following, descendants in the upcoming generations, Mamash, they were Manhig, the Kilat Yazd. He lived in the late 1800s, and all his generations, son after son, were the Rabbanim of Yazd. Until today, here, the Kilat Yazdim here, the Mishpachat Shraga, are the Rabbanim and Marigim of the Keilah. So that's another very Chashuv Torah center that was in Iran that I forgot to mention. Our next speaker is also an author, also a researcher. He has a sefer on the Ben Ish Chai and has done a lot of research on Iran as well. His father from Shiraz. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Rav Avishai Bar Osher to come and say...
אני אנסה לדבר גם בעברית, גם באנגלית. את חטאי אני מזכיר, אני נולדתי בירושלים.
הלוואי שזה החטא הגדול שם.
אבל אבא השאיר לי מורשת גדולה. כשהוא ראה שאני כותב על כל קהילות ספרד, אמר לי, מי יכתוב על הפרסים? אמרתי לו, הפרסים לא נותנים, הם שומרים את החומר. אמר לי, תבדוק. אז אני בן ליליד העיר שירז, אבי מורי עליו השלום. אשר אפשר להגיד, ברוב ימות חייו הגיע לפה בגיל צעיר. אני יכול גם לשלב קצת אנגלית, אבל אני מצטער, האנגלית שלי היא לגל, לדבר באנגלית. אז אבא הסתיר והצניע, ואני כמובן מצאתי להסבר, כי כשהוא הגיע ארצה, שנה אחרי קום המדינה, והתקבל לקיבוץ, כמובן שהיה צריך להיות ישראלי, ובמיוחד אלה שבאו מעדות המזרח ומפרס, היה קשה להם להצטרף ולהתקדם ולהשתלב. והוא קידש את המושג ישראליות, אבל באחרית ימיו הוא הבין שהמורשת והשורשים נטועים במקום ששם הוא גדל והתחנך. ואז הוא הקים את העמותה למורשת יהדות שירז, שהוא לא זכה לראות את הספר הזה, ספר רב קרס של 900 עמודים, יצא לפני 4 שנים בערך, אבל הוא היווה הגורם שליקד את האנשים שהצליחו לשמור פירורים, שזה גם בפרסית וגם בעברית, עם המנהגים.
הוא חוקר במקצוע?
אני מתעסק גם בין השאר. אני יותר עוסק בבניין הארץ, אבל אני משלב ארץ ישראל עם רוחני, מנסים לעשות שמיים וארץ, לקרב דברים, לשלב את הדברים. אז אבא הטיל עלינו משימה, והיא באה לגמר, והוא כל הזמן היה אומר לנו, יבוא היום, הוא זכה בשנת 72, לבקר במחוזות ילדותו, אחרי הרבה שנים. הוא ביקר כמובן בשירז, בטהרן, בעמדן. אני חושב שבעוד איזו עיר קטנה שהוא ביקר שם, לדאבון הלב, כל התמונות שהוא צילם במצלמות הישנות, הפילם נשרף ולא נשאר שום דבר. 1972, תשל"ב. הוא הגיע לשם וחזר נפעם, ואני חושב שזו הייתה נקודת השבר בתפיסה העצמית שלו, אחרי שהוא ביסס כבר משפחה והקים פה, וזרועותיו מושרשים בכל מיני עבודה, דברים שהוא עשה פה בירושלים. אז הוא הבין שהוא צריך לחזור לשורשים אחורה. ואז כמובן אחרי כמה שנים הקימו את העמותה ועמלו ועבדו. לשמחתנו הגדולה, חלק גדול מהכותבים בשנתיים 3 האחרונות שהגיעו לגילאים מופלגים, הלכו לעולמם, לא לשמחתנו שהלכו לעולמם, אלא לשמחתנו שהם הצליחו לשמור פה חומרים. יש פה שמות משפחה על המעלה בשירז, תארים, הכל על שירז, הכל על שירז. עכשיו אני כחוקר,
זה אפרטהייד.
כן, אני אומר לעצמי, 900 עמודים לא מוציאים, זה ספרי קטן, 300 עמודים מוציאים, זה מתקשר לשירז גם. אבל אבא אמר את המושג כשהוא חזר, אני אקח אתכם למחוזות ילדותי, לעיר ירושלים הקטנה, ככה הוא כינה אותה. אני יודע שגם היזדים אומרים שיזדי ירושלים הקטנה, וגם הליטאים, וכל אחד, והמקנסים גם משייכים את ירושלים, אבל טוב שכל העולם ישייך כל עיר ועיר לירושלים, כי אני כבן ירושלים, עם הסריטה שיש לי לירושלים, מוכן שירושלים תגיע עד ניו יורק ועד אפילו לוס אנג'לס. עתידה ירושלים להגיע עד לשם. אז אבא כמובן לא הצליח להגשים את החזון שלו עם נפילת השעה ב-79, ואנחנו, זה ליווה אותנו הרבה. הנקודה השנייה שאני נפגשתי, זה היה אחרי פטירתו, כשהוא אמר לי תמיד, אתה כותב על משפחת אבוחצירא, מה, יש מרוקאים, על רבנו יוסף חיים מבגדד, יש בגדדים, על התוניסאים, האלג'ירים. אני פשוט באקראי נקלעתי לארכיון של העדה הספרדית בירושלים, והריח של הניירות והספרים האלה העתיקים שראיתי אותם פשוט קסמו לי והכניסו אותי פנימה לנבחי העבר. ואז הוא אמר לי, ומי יכתוב על פרס? אז ההזדמנות הראשונה הייתה לאחר שהוא נפטר. הרב אמר פה דברים חשובים ביותר שהם בתוך ליבי. תמיד הפריע לי דבריו של החידה, כבר הזכרתם את זה. ואמרתי, זה לא ייתכן. סבתא שלי הגיעה לפה, ששערה משערות ראשה לא ירד, לא יצא החוצה עם כיסוי ראש. היא התאלמנה בגיל 36 בשירז עם 8 ילדים, אבא היה בן 3, עוד 2 אחים קטנים ממנו. הלכו לעבוד כי לא היה אוכל בבית. והיא הגיעה לפה, אלמנה צעירה שגידלה 8 ילדים, אז איך היא שמרה על הכיסוי ראש? אני שואל רק את השאלה הזו. מאיפה היא בקנאות חינכה והילדים גדלו? הזכרנו את הרב יצחק לוי. אבא סיפר לי שכשהוא הגיע לשירז אמרו הנה הגיע המשיח מארץ ישראל. הוא היה טור זקן לבן, מי שראה את התמונות. אני ליוויתי את הבן שלו הרבה שנים. ואז המפגש היה כשאבא נפטר, שהוא היה אוטודידקט, הוא היה... כן. נכון. וכשאבא נפטר, אז הוא היה כולו אוטודידקט, הוא היה איש חינוך, ששילב אותנו בכל מערכות החינוך בתפיסה. אני אספר סיפור קטן שאותי חרוט לי בראש בצורה מאוד מאוד... אני מדבר בעברית שמישהו לא מבין, או שהכל בסדר? אוקיי. אני חזרתי, הייתי בן 10, מכיכר הדוידקה, והייתה הפגנה של הפנתרים. ובאתי כולי טעון ונרגש, ואמרתי, אבא, תראה, אנחנו הספרדים. פוגעים בנו, אין לחם, אין חלב. היה פעולה שהם עשו באותו לילה, שהם נכנסו לתנובה. היום זה כל השכונה החדשה. לקחו חלב, והלכו לאנג'ל, לקחו לחם וחילקו בשכונת מוסררה. ואותי זה הרשים. אמרתי, תראה מה אבא. אנחנו בשנת 1970, זה לא הגיוני שהספרדים אין להם מה לאכול. אמר לי את המשפט שהוא חרוט בראשי והוביל אותי למסע הארוך. אמר בסדר, הלילה הם פתרו את הבעיה, ומה יהיה מחר? אמר יא אבני, בערבית, כי אמא שלי מדברת ערבית חלבית, אני מדבר ערבית מהצד השני החלבי. אמר לי, בני היקר, תקשיב, זה לא דרכנו, ולא נפתור את הבעיה. הדרך היא רק דרך צמצום הפערים, דרך החינוך, ולכן בואו... וככה הוא חינך אותנו, הוא מסר את נפשו על חינוך, הוא היה אוטודידקט. כשהוא הגיע לארץ, הוא במקום ללכת לבילוי שהיה בתוך הקיבוצים, הם היו נוסעים על אופניים למטעים, הוא היה יושב ולומד את השפה העברית, עד שהוא אמר לי, אני עבד נרצע לשפה העברית. כשהייתי טועה בעברית שלי, אמר, אתה יליד הארץ, צבר, השפה העברית, אני לא מרשה לך, תתקן, תחזור, תשנן, תחזור, תשנן. קיצור, בתור היותו אוטודידקט שחינך את עצמו וחינך אותנו, אני אמרתי כשאני מוציא חוברת זיכרון לזכרו, מה היה הדבר הכי חשוב שעניין אותי, וזה אותה אמרה של החידה, איך נשתמרה התורה, מה היה המסורה. אז אנחנו יודעים שבמרוקו של 650 שנה, או תקופת הגאונים בפס, יש קהילה יהודית במרוקו, הם בסך הכל קהילה צעירה שסמוכה על צרפת ועל ספרד. אבל איך באיראן סבתא שלי שומרת על כיסוי ראש? מאיפה היא שמעה, מאיפה היא ראתה? זה עבר במסורה. הפריע לי. ייזכר על טוב, ידידנו, שעשה עבודת קודש, שכל הערת שוליים דורשת פה מחקר, נקטף באיבו. שבאתי לניו יורק, הוא אירח אותי באירוח מיוחד במינו בישיבה אוניברסיטי, והוא נקטף. הוא השאיר פה, הוא היה בן 53 בערך, השאיר ילדים קטנים תוך 3 חודשים. ורבי דניאל צדיק, משפחה היספנית שגרים פה, דרך אגב, הזכרתם את בן חיים, הרב נתנאל היה גר פה בסוף הרחוב. סוף הרחוב הוא ורעייתו, הרבנית בן חיים. והספר הזה מחייב אותנו כל אחד לקחת כל אות פה במראה מקום ולפתח אותו. הוא עשה פה עבוד.
סליחה, חידה לא אומר שהם לא שומרים מצוות. חידה אומר שיש עם הארץ, אבל לא אומר, זה משהו, הוא בשום מקום לא אומר ששמירת המצוות אין שום...
אז איך שלא, השאלה הייתה...
אין עוררין עד לפני המהפכה.
זה ברור, אני רק שאלתי תמיד איך שמרו בקנאות, ותמיד אני מקביל את זה ליוצאי צפון אפריקה שבאים משוויצים, שבמקנס היה הרב מסאס והרב טולדנו ורבי יהושע ברדוגו והוציאו ספרי שו"תים. הם היו סמוכים על ספרד, על צרפת, הם היו סמוכים על הדפוס. בפרס הרחוקה לא היה דפוס, ובפרס לא השאירו הרבה דברים בכתב, מה שנשאר בכתבים זה... אבל בקנאות החזיקו את השמירה. סליחה, אני מאשש מה שהרב, כי אני קטן, עפר לכולכם, כי אני יליד ירושלים, ואתם גדלתם או ינקתם או שמעתם, הרב יצחקיאן היה ליד האשל הגדול, ליד הרב נתנאלי, ואני הקטן, כלום, אני בן ירושלים, מה אני בא מדבר איתכם על פרס? מה בכלול אני בא ומשוויץ שאני יודע? הכל היה בעיתוי שהאבא דחף אותי לעניין. ואז כשיוצאתי את חוברת הזיכרון, התוודעתי לסיפור של אוצר התורה. ונכנסתי לנבחי אוצר התורה, ישבתי עם הרב יעקב לוי הרבה, והתחלתי לאסוף אוצרות, שלדעתי זה עוד מעט ממה שיש, כי צריכים להגיע לכל הארכיונים. כי מה שהרב אמר על גדולתו של הרב יצחק מאיר לוי, יחד, כמו שהזכרתם, את הרב יצחק שלום, החלבי, היה עוד אחד בשם ג'ו הררי, שאחר כך הוא הגיע לירושלים, היה גר ברחביה, שהם הוזילו כסף מכספם, כי הם הבינו את המשמעות, שמה שקרה שם היה יכול להיות החורבן הכי גדול של 2700 שנים ששמרו, אבל פתאום בום, לפני 120 שנה, הכל היה יכול להתפרק, כשהאליאנס נכנסים ומדרבנים ואיך שומרים. אני ראיתי מסמכים של שיעורי תורה, הנחיות למורים, למשל לפורים, בערב פורים תלמדו בכיתות הקטנות מהי המגילה, ובכיתות השניות הלכות חג הפורים. זה הרב לוי חתום על זה. הוא היה בבחינת מושיע, שמה שהוא עשה וההצלה. עכשיו, לדעתי הנושא הזה עדיין לא מספיק בעומק נחקר, וצריך לתת לו עוד יותר דחיפה. אבל זה אותי לפחות הוציא מאותו מחקר גדול שעסקתי בקהילות ספרד בעיקר, רבי יוסף חיים, שאני כיליד שכונת קריית משה, בגיל 2 שומע את הרב מרדכי אליהו, אומר הרב יוסף חיים, הרב יוסף חיים, הרב יוסף חיים, והיה הולך לומד את זה. זה לא המחקר שביום אחד, אבל כשהגעתי בתוך המחקר הזה לפרק שקשור אלינו לכאן, זה הפרק, הזכרנו את הרב מלמד, זה הכיסא רחמים, ובנו שהיה רבנו, מורנו ורבנו, הרב עזרא ציון מלמד. התוודעתי לשאלה שמוצגת פה, שאלת השאלות, במיוחד למאות האחרונים, על יהדות בבל, במיוחד רבנו יוסף חיים, והקשר שלו עם יהדות פרס, סליחה. ואז אני חושף פה למעשה שני מכתבים מלפני 140 שנה, שחכמי שירז שלחו אליו לבגדד בשאלות הלכתיות, ציבוריות, והוא משיב להם. המכתבים האלה נשמרו אצל הנכד של הרב רחמים, הכיסא רחמים, שזה ספר מופת יסודי. אני שמעתי שהוא נמצא פה, יצא לדעתי 10 מהדורות, וזה ספר שבמיוחד התימנים התחברו עליהם. בנו הרב עזרא ציון מלמד התפרסם בהיותו גדול החוקרים של המשנה והתלמוד, הוא קיבל על זה פרס ישראל. הוא היה מורי ורבי, הוא קידש אותנו, דברים דמות כזו שאי אפשר לתאר את היושרה, הענווה, הקדושה, הטהרה, המסירות למורשת יהדות פרס. בקיצור, יש לי פה פרק קטן שאני מדבר על הקשר וחושף את שני המכתבים. לי זה נתן איזשהו מענה, אמרתי אוקיי, בסדר. במאות שנים האחרונות, או במאה ה-20, זה 140 שנה, יהדות שירז הרחוקה שנמצאת באיזה פינה, נסמכת על רבי יוסף חיים מבגדד, כי זה טעם את התקופה של המחקר שלי, ואז שילבתי את זה בפנים. זה רק מחייב, ואני שוב לא פתרתי בשבח אכסניה, את הפעולה המבורכת הזו שאתם עושים פה, הרב יצחקיין, הרב זרגרי, שאני, נדמה לי שדיברנו בטלפון פעם או פעמיים, והייתי בלוס אנג'לס בביקורים קצרים, גם כדי להתחקות, גם לשם הגעתי. לעשות את הפעולות, לתפוס את השרידים, כי מה שנעשה פה זה בדיוק השרידים. לכתוב מילון עברי, פרסי, שירזי, מניב של שירז, היום אין מי שיעשה את זה. היהודי הלך לעולמו בגיל 91, שבועיים או 3 שבועות לפני שהספר יצא לה. הוא לא זכה לראות את זה. הוא עשה מודל של המעלה בשירז, ועשו תצוגה, עשינו יום עיון באוניברסיטת בר אילן, ואנשים טיפסו על המעלה, כי הוא אמר, פה הגג הזה היה של זה, ופה היה לו תחנות. הוא לא עשה את זה בקנה מידה, אני איש תכנון, אז אני שם לב לקנה מידה 1 ל-1, 1 לזה, לא משנה הקנה מידה, אבל אנשים חשו את המעלה, והגיעו אנשים מכל הארץ לכנס, והדברים האלה חייבים לכתב ולעשות ולשמר. אבל לי יש לי איזו בשורה, קודם כל הבשורה הגדולה של הספר של פסקי הרב רבן, יצא בערב החג ספר של הרב רבני מספהאן, מלפני 100 שנה. הוציאה את זה נכדה ונינה שלו. אני עוד לא ראיתי את הספר, אבל ראיתי את התוכן, דיברתי עם החוקרים, זה יצא באוניברסיטת בר אילן. זה נקרא אל יהודי, שזה היה כינוי של העיר הזו, בשל ההשפעה של היהודים. ויצא ספר לפני 2 של דברי תורה של הרב מולה מרדכי אקלר, זה אתם מכירים, ממשד, מהנושא משד שהיה פה בקהילה. לי יש קצת כתבים שראיתי והלכה לעולמה לדעתי הנכדה, שגם הוא היה גר פה, מולה מוסאי מנחם הלוי, שהוא היה מרבני המדן בית מנחם, הבית כנסת שהעץ נוטה שם החוצה. ואני תמיד אומר לכולם, בואו לירושלים לרחוב קטן שקוראים לו חג'י אדוניה, ותמצאו שם 4 בתי כנסת של 3 קהילות, 2 של המשדים, 1 של היזדים ו1 של המדנים, בלב ליבה של שכונת הבוכרים, שזה רק מעיד על ההשפעה של הקהילה. השירזים, אם אנחנו מדברים בהקשר הזה, הם הגיעו בעלייה. יש ספר לא יודע אם אני רואה אותו פה, אבנים בחומה, ספר שיצא לאור לפני כ-50 שנה, שהוא מספר את סיפור העלייה משירז, שבבית ספר ובכל מיני מערכות החינוך לא מדגישים את העלייה מגרמניה ומבלרוס ומרוסיה, אבל לא מדגישים את העלייה משירז של המולה קוצ'יק, של הרב רחמים מלמד הכהן, שהוא הגיע ב-1890, התחילו להגיע יהודים משירז, בנו שכונה ורחוב שלם בלב ליבה של ירושלים עם 5 בתי כנסת עד היום של יוצאי שירז, שהבנאים, משפחת בנאי היו מתפללים באחד מהם, השני זה שערי רחמים על שם הכיסא רחמים, יש בית יצחק למטה, ויש שאולי שסבתא שלי, שאולי, כהן שאולי, שזה גם משירז, גם בית כנסת, 5 בתי כנסת בתוך מתחם קטן בירושלים. זאת אומרת, אנחנו רואים את ההשפעה והעליות של יהדות פרס לגוונהם, לפי התקופות והעיתות שלא באו לידי ביטוי. וכאן אני אסיים, אולי בקול קורא לעצמי, צריכים לשבת לכתוב, לפרסם מה שהרב דיבר על הקונטרס שהרב פרסם, נדבך לנדבך. כשאני קניתי את הספר, והסתכלתי וראיתי שהחוברת זיכרון של אבא שלי, הוא מצטט אותה, כי יש שם פרק באמת חשוב על הנושא של אוצר התורה בהקשר מסוים. אמרתי, האיש הזה באמת לא השאיר דבר שהוא לא נגע בו. ואנחנו, כל אחד ייקח את המשימה הזו, כי צריכים לחשוב על שמירה, תיעוד, ובעיקר הפרק התורני חינוכי, שאותי זה מעניין. ראיתי ספר שיצא על ידי הג'וינט, שהוא מעין סיכום שעשה חוקר מטעם הג'וינט, הם גם היו מעורבים בעקיפין ובישירות עם אוצר התורה, שהם עשו סקר בבתי הספר באיראן לפי כיתות. הם ספרו את מספר הכיסאות וכמה היו בנים וכמה בנות, ובתי ספר שלא היו מעורבים, עד כדי ספירת המחברות והעפרונות, כמובן שזה הפריטים הפחות מעניינים, עד התכנים של הלימוד, שזה היה סקר שנתן ביקורת על אותה תקופה, שממנו אפשר להבין שאילולי אוצר התורה, אילולי הרב יצחק מאיר לוי, שאנחנו צריכים להזכיר אותו בכל מקום, בכל פינה, הרב יאשר מה שאני אומר. אני הולך להגיד מילה שאני כמעט משוכנע, היה יכול להיות חורבן יותר גדול מאשר בתקופות מאוחרות ביהדות איראן, דווקא בתקופה הזו של ראשית העלייה של אבא של השח הקודם ב-1925. ולכן אנחנו צריכים להכיר גם טובה על הסיפור הזה ולנסות לתעד, לכתוב. לדעתי יש אוצרות עדיין בבתים של האנשים ששמרו, כמו הכתר הרמצוב.
מתחיל במצווה, אומרים לו גמור.
אנחנו משתדלים הרב, אנחנו משתדלים.
בגריידנה גם כן יש להם את המעלה.
כן. המשדים קצת יותר מאורגנים, למרות שפה הם היו פחות מאורגנים. הם מאורגנים בחוץ לארץ, הרב זביחי, אני עוקב אחרי מה שעושים. הם מאורגנים, כקהילה מאורגנים. אבל אני אגיד משהו, אולי בזה אני אסיים. אני אסיים במשהו. היה לי תקופה שעבדתי עם הנשיא, וכשהוא נבחר, רצו לבוא אליו, יש בירושלים ארגון יוצאי שירז, יש ארגון יוצאי משד, התאחדות יוצאי יזד, והוא אמר, אני לא מוכן לקבל אתכם. לא ייתכן שלמרוקאים יש ברית יוצאי מרוקו של כל הערים ביחד. זה גם משימה שאנחנו צריכים לחשוב, איך להיכנס, למרות שיש שוני, לא לטשטש את השוני ואת הזהות בין עיר לעיר. הרב יזרעאלי שכתב את הספר, זה משהו שאי אפשר לתפוס, קרמנשי, תורה, וזה לא קרמנשי כדין שירז, ולא שירז כדין יזד, ולא יזד כדין עמדן, ולא... ואני שוב מודה לבעל האכסניה, מודה לרב, מודה לכולם ששמעו את הדברים המעטים, שפשוט אני עושה את זה בגדר צוואה של אבא. לא מעבר לזה, כי המשיכה שלי היא הרבה יותר לדברים אחרים, אבל יהדות פרס חייבת להעמיד את עצמה במקום הראוי לה, כי 2,700 שנה זה לא 600 שנה של יהדות. אמרתי להם למרוקאים, מה אתם עושים עלינו הבועלי, מה הבאתם לנו? אנחנו הבאנו גם מגילה וגם חג. אומרים, אנחנו הבאנו את המימונה, אמרתי להם, גם את זה גנבתם מאיתנו, אני אחיוך לכם. כי סבא שלי נפטר יום איסור חג, הם יצאו לשדה ברוזי בר, סליחה אם אני לא אומר נכון, עקץ אותו הקרבו נחש, כ"ד ניסן, שבוע שעבר היה יום ההוצאת שלו. אמרתי, אז גם אצלנו היה מימונה, גם בפולין היה מימונה, גם התימנים נתנו איזה לחוך. אל תיקחו את זה ותעשו את זה שזה... ויהי רצון שבאמת נזכה ונהיה ראויים לעשות את מה שאנחנו אמונים לדורות הבאים. תודה.
חזק וברוך לרב אבישי בר אושר על הדברים הנפלאים. המרצה הבא הוא מאחד מבני קהילת משהד שעכשיו דיברו על משהד. האבא שלו אמר דעת פה, הבית כנסת פה, הרב אליהו קצביאן, והבן רבי יעקב קצביאן, הוא זכה לעשות מחקר על ידי משהד בשנים האחרונות ועובדים על ספר, ועכשיו נזכה לשמוע כמה דברים על יהדות משהד. בכבוד.
ברשות הרב, ברשות הרבנים, אני לא רוצה לדבר באריכות. אני להתחיל לספר סיפורים זה לא זה דבר שצריך לעבוד עליו, אבל אני רוצה לתת 3 נקודות מנחות בעניין הזה של הערב שמדברים פה על חקר יהדות פרס. והאמת היא שזה לא רק חקר יהדות פרס, זה סתם כל חקר יהדות המזרח בשנים האחרונות, הצעירים, הדור הצעיר, הדור של הרב פחות הרגיש את החיסרון, הרגישו, היו שם, פחות או יותר הרגישו שאנחנו מכירים את המקורות, אבל פתאום רואים בצעירים של היום השתוקקות אדירה בעניין הזה של לדעת מה היה שם ומה כל קהילה, הסיפור שלה. והרב אושר במרוקו גם אין היסטוריה. בשום קהילה, פעם שמעתי הרב הלל סיטון מברוקלין, הוא אמר לי הבחנה קולעת, למה היהדות המזרח לא מתועדת? למה היא לא מתועדת? יש אגב מכתב מהרב יוסף משש, שהוא אומר שהגיע אליהם יהודי מאלג'יר, שהיה קצת שייך למערב באיזשהו דרך, הכיר את העולם, הגיע לאלג'יר, החליט שהוא הולך לתעד את כל הקהילות, הקהילות הספרדיות. והוא הלך למרוקו, והיו יושבים כל החכמים באיזשהו צהריים, והוא אמר להם, תתחילו לכתוב, תכתבו, מה המסורות שקיבלתם, איש מפי איש, מה היה לכם ביד? אז כל החכמים אמרו לו, מה שהיה הוא שיהיה. מה זה משנה? מה שהיה פעם קורה היום. ושנים לא כל כך הבנתי, ראיתי את זה לפני 7-8 שנים, לא כל כך הבנתי מה זה הדבר הזה. הוא באמת לא הסכים איתם. הוא אומר, והוכיח אותי אותו אחד על הדבר הזה שמה הקשר שלא כותבים לא מתעדים את ההיסטוריה. וקיבלתי על עצמי להתחיל לתעד. כל דבר חידוש שאני רואה, כל דבר שמאפיין יסודות בקהילה, והוא אומר שה3 קבצים שלו, של האגרות, יש שם הרבה תיעודים על קהילת יהודי מרוקו. ואני חושב שמה שאמרו לו החכמים, עקרונית הם צדקו. זה העיר אותי הרב הלל סיטון, עקרונית, יהדות המזרח הם גלות של 2000 שנה רצופה. במרוקו, אנחנו יודעים שכבר שרירי גאון, היה שם יהדות טוניס, מרוקו, עריף, כאילו, אנחנו יודעים שבאלף ומשהו שנים האחרונות, 1300 או 1000, תלוי באיזה אזורים, יש יהדות. בפרס, 2000 שנה. יש מקומות. 2600, בית ראשון. ויש מקומות, בתימן, ובעוד הרבה מקומות, זה גלויות עתיקות. בדרך כלל, המאפיין של תרבויות מתעדות, זה שהם גלו. כל 50, 60, 70 שנה, 100 שנה באירופה, היה פשוט גלויות. העתיקו את כל המקום שלהם. הנכד לא יודע מה היה לפני זה, הוא לא מכיר. אחד שגדל באיראן, מה שסבא רבא שלו 7-10 דורות אחורה עשה, גם אבא עושה עכשיו. אין הרבה חידושים. השלב שמתחיל להיות חידוש, זה שאני מכיר סיטואציה חדשה, לסבא שלי לא היה מה שאני חי, אז מסקרן אותי מה היה אצל סבא שלי. ולכן הסיפור שלנו לא כל כך מתועד. כל הספרים שיכתבו עדיין זה כאין וכאפס. כל אחד תופס נישה מסוימת, בדילי מידע. אני על יהדות משהד מאוד סקרן אותי, הגעתי ל300 עמודים, אולי כמה סוגיות ביררנו. מה היה הטהרה שם, המעמד הנשים, הסגנון של חיי הקהילה, שמירת המצוות, סיפורי מסירות נפש, הכל ממש על קצה המזלג, זה לא רציני. ככה לא מתעדים היסטוריה. תראה ספרי היסטוריה אחרים. יש את זה באנגלית, הרב.
צריך רק באנגלית.
יש באנגלית, הרב. הכל מתואר. בעיקרון זה היה מתואר. זה נכתב רק בעברית על ידינו, אבל ישר תורגם לאנגלית. אחרי שראינו שכבר נהיה הרבה יותר חומרים, אז עצרנו את זה, ואז החלטנו שאנחנו רוצים זה. אבל מתורגם יש בערך 80 עמודים. אז קודם כל יש פה שאלה מרכזית. מה התפקיד, האם באמת יש פה שאלה להתחיל לעבוד, לבדוק את חקר הקהילות? מה היה שם? עכשיו, יש בזה הרבה מעלות, יש פה גם הרבה שאלות הלכתיות, של כללי ההוראה, של המעמד ההלכתי, של ההיסטוריה, אפשר ללמוד פה הרבה, וסתם, יש פה עוד שאלה שלא קשורה לבית המדרש. יש פה שאלה שקשורה ליהדות העולם. כמה פעמים אבי סיפר לי, שהוא היה מנסה לחזק אנשים, ואנשים שומעים שיעור על טהרת המשפחה. זה לא מעניין אותם. שיעור בטהרת המשפחה, כאילו מרגישים שזה נותק מהם. זה משהו דוס, משהו חרדי, משהו פנאטי. אבל אם אתה בא לאותו בן אדם, והביא לו סיפורים על הסבתא רבא שלו, שהייתה שוברת קרח בשביל לטבול במקווה. הכל משתנה. אם אתה מביא לו סיפורים, שהסבא רבא שלו, היה מוסר נפש, סתם, השם שלי זה קצביין. אני ניסיתי לברר בדרכים, עד שהגעתי ליהודי שנפטר בין 95 הוא חי כמעט עד 100, נפטר לפני 2 שהוא אמר לי שקצביין במקור הם היו קצבים, הם היו שם טוב. לא יודע אם שם טוב, לא הוא הסתפק, אבל היו משפחת קצביין, והיה אסור לשחוט בשר באיראן, הם היו נוסעים לרוסיה. והוא נסע לרוסיה, והיה עובד רצוף 3 ימים עד שהיה גומר את הכל, ותוך כדי השחיטה הוא מת. עכשיו, זה בין 1839 ל-1906. בשנים האלה זה קרה. לא יודע בדיוק מתי זה קרה. אבל יש עוד הרבה סיפורים על מסירות נפש, לטהרה, מסירות נפש לתפילין. התפילין הכי קטנות, הרב מכיר את זה? התפילין הכי קטנות שמצאו בעולם, יש את זה במוזיאון ישראל. התפילין הכי קטנות, הרב ראשר, אתה מכיר את זה. התפילין הכי קטנות שמצאו, זה תפילין בגודל כזה. ממש ככה. זה היה במשהד, שהיה אסור להניח תפילין. עכשיו, הגדולי הקהילה היו חייבים ללכת למכה. יכולים להגיע למכה בשביל להוכיח זה. לכן יש בית הכנסת חג'י אדוניה. זה אבסורד. יש בית הכנסת חג'י אדוניה, זה שם מוסלמי. מה זה חג'? מי שעלה למכה, המוסלמים קוראים לו חג'י. וזה התקבע, חג'י אדוניה, חג'י יחזקאל. טוב, אבל פעם רב אחד אמר לי שלדעתו, דווקא השם הזה זה שם של קידוש השם. כאילו זה מסמל שהיה פה הניסות, והם... עכשיו הסיפור היה, זה איראן, פה זה מכה. באמצע זה ארץ ישראל. הם היו צריכים ללכת 30 יום בערך, בערך 30 יום, להגיע מאיראן למכה. עכשיו, כל יום הם חיים בקהילה, הם בחוץ מוסלמים. בבית הם יהודים, אז הוא מניח תפילין בבית. אבל מה אני עושה 30 יום שאני בא מזה וכל החברים איתי ביחד, ואני מוסלמי איתם. אז מה שהוא עשה, זה שהוא הכין תפילין, לקח לו כמה חודשים לפני שהוא יצא, כתב תפילין קטנות, תפר אותם לתרבוש הזה שהם היו לובשים, תפר את זה. ביום לבש את התרבוש ככה, בלילה לבש את התרבוש ככה. וככה הוא הגיע, בחזור לארץ, אדוניהו הכהן. מונח לי שזה חג'י אדוניהו, אבל לא רוצה להגיד את זה בגלל שצריך לדייק, אבל מונח לי שזה הוא, אבל אפשר לבדוק את זה. כתוב לי אם זה היה הוא, אבל אדוניהו הכהן היה שמו. והוא הגיע באמצע, השתוקקה נפשו להגיע לארץ, ברח למשלחת והגיע לארץ. הגיע לארץ, קנה פה שטחים בבוכרים, והשתקע פה ונשארו התפילין פה. והתפילין נמצאים במוזיאון ישראל. עכשיו, כשאתה אומר ליהודי, לא שומר תורה ומצוות, אני לא מדבר עכשיו בבית מדרש. לא בבית מדרש. איך? תפילין של יד. זה יותר קל. תפילין של יד. אתה לא מוריד את הלבוש שלך כל היום. קושר אותם עד לפה, נגמר הסיפור, אבל תפילין של ראש, זה הבעיה. מסתבר, כן, מסתבר. איך? כן, זה הרעיון, אותי יותר מעניין הרעיונות של הדברים. יש חוקרים, הרב הראש יכול לדייק, אני רואה דברים שמעניינים אותו, על הניואנס הכי קטן מעניין אותו, מה בדיוק היה, זה אופי של חוקר. אותי סתם מסקרן הרעיונות, אני מדבר עכשיו משהו כללי. שאתה מדבר עכשיו עם יהודי על חיזוק מצוות תפילין, ואתה אומר לו, תשמע, חייב להניח תפילין, תורה ניתנה מסיני, שומע? זה ודאי דבר, אבל הרבה פעמים זה גם לא משכנע. יהודי שגדל בחיים מופקרים זה לא משכנע אותו. אבל אם אתה מספר לו על הזהות שלו, מה המקורות שלו, אני חושב שהמשוואה משתנית. וזה באמת שאלה. יש לנו 15 שנה האחרונות שנשארו, מסתבר בערך, לדעת מה קרה עוד. יש סקנים, עוד שאפשר לשרן אותם, 15 שנה זה עוד, תורבה מסדנו כבר. אני חשבתי על רעיון, ולכן אני רציתי לדבר פה. אני לא אוהב לדבר בפורומים כאלה, אבל אני רק אגיד, אני רוצה לנצל את הבמה הזאת. לרב יש, נראה לי, הרב ברוך השם זכה להרבצת תורה שיחידים בדורנו זכו לה. היה מיזם אצלנו בקהילה של הקהילה המשדית. יש עד היום, נותנים לסטודנטים כל שנה 1,500 שקל. אמרתי לראשי הקהילה, לראשי אלה שאחראים על זה, פשוט לזרוק את הכסף. בל תשחית. אתם תיתנו משהו בתמורה למשהו שהם נותנים. בסוף אתה רוצה לבנות את הקהילה. הרי מה יקרה? אתה נותן לו 1,500 שקל. זה לא מעניין אותו בכלל. הוא פשוט יודע שהוא מחפש בזה שהוא משדי. אוקיי, אני משדי, תן לי 1,500 שקל. זה לא מעסיק אותו באמת, אתה לא עשית פה כלום. מה הרעיון שלך שאתה נותן 1,500 שקל? אתה רוצה לחזק את הזהות, את המקורות של כל אחד. כל אחד שיכתוב מאמר, יראיין את הסבא שלו. 4 עמודים. כל אחד 4 עמודים. גם אם אתה לא חוקר. וזה לא מעניין אותך. אתה יושב ולומד, או אתה יוצא לעבוד, והחיים שלך הם יותר סביב עבודה, ולא מעניין אותך שום דבר בהיסטוריה. שעה אחת, תשב, אמר לי זה חוקר של חקר השואה. הוא אמר לי שחלק נכבד מהמחקר על השואה היה בנים של הורים שראיינו את ההורים. הכל נמצא בתיקיות, בספרייה הלאומית, באוניברסיטאות, במאגרים, בדברים. כל אחד כותב 4 עמודים, כל אחד מביא סיפור. סיפור. סיפור, כאילו הכוונה, מביא מבט על המשפחה שלו. יבוא חוקר בעוד כך וכך שנים, או הרב ברושר ודומיו, ויעשו מזה מטעמים. אז קודם כל, יש פה את השאלה המרכזית, מי אמר שצריך לעשות את זה? זה אני לא מכריע בשאלה הזאת. אני אומר, אם מכריעים שצריך לעשות את זה, לכאורה יש דרך מאוד פשוטה לעשות את זה. כל אחד שעה, שואל את הסבתא שלו, מנצלים את כל הסבתות בנות 90 ו100 שעות, עוזבים אותנו בעיקרון, ופשוט מביאים פה מחקר מטורף שיכול להיות פה לשרת את כל מי שיתעסק בתחום הזה. אגב,
בני תורה צריכים לעשות את זה, אנחנו לא נעשה את זה. יש הרבה חוקרים פרסים שהם
ייקחו את החלק.
לגמרי מזווית. למשל, יש איזה ספר על היסטוריה של פרס, דוקטור חביב לוי. הוא מדבר על אוצר התורה כמו מוקצה מחמד מיוס.
והבחנה.
זה מאוד חשוב שמי שעוסק בזה, אז מה שכבודו אומר זה רעיון מאוד טוב, שבאמת, אני מקווה שהרב בר אושר יקבל את זה על עצמו.
הרב, זה לא קשור לרב בר אושר, זה קשור לרבני הקהילות בחו"ל.
אני חוזר לוס אנג'לס, אני מפרסם את זה. כל אחד ילך, כמו שאמרת, בטרם...
עוד רגע הם נעלמים.
כן, לראיין את הסבא שלהם וכו'.
אפשר לעשות שאלות מנחות.
לרכז אותם, לשלוח אצל...
כן.
ולעשות מזה באמת, זה...
בטח.
כל הקהילה, לא רק שירה.
כן, נכון. כל הקהילות, זה תקף בהכל. רבנו יונה כותב משהו, אני רוצה לסיים, אני לא אלאה פה. רבנו יונה כותב, בתחילת ספר העבודה. יש ספר העבודה, אומרים שזה לרבנו יונה, יש פה ראש כהל שאמר לי, אני חותם לך שרבנו יונה לא כתב את זה, הוא קרא את כולו, אומר לי, זה לא רבנו יונה. טוב, אבל יש בזה הרבה... רבנו יונה כותב, איך? מיוחס לרבנו יונה. רבנו יונה כתוב בשער העבודה, בספר העבודה. העיקר הראשון בעבודת השם. כך הוא פותח את הספר. פלא עצום. העיקר הראשון בעבודת השם, שידע העובד את השם, ערך עצמו ומעלת אבותיו. הדבר הראשון, אני חושב שכל אחד פה, אם היו שואלים אותו מה הערך הראשון בעבודת השם, כל אחד היה בונה, לא יודע, ביטחון, אמונה, מכאן ועד הודעה חדשה. הוא כותב לא ככה, ויש פה משהו עמוק. ערך עצמו ומעלת אבותיו. שאתה יודע מאיפה אתה מגיע, כמה פרסים אתם מכירים? אני מכיר המון, בטח הרב מכיר הרבה כאלה. שכאילו הם מרגישים שלהיות תלמיד חכם, או להיות עובד השם מופלג, יהודי שכל חייו זה דבקות ועבודת השם, זה כאילו זה יפה מאוד, אני הולך לרב חיים קניבסקי, אני רואה אותו עושה ככה, זה לא המנטליות שלי. זה לא המנטליות שלנו, להיות כזה. אנחנו לא כאלו. מה אתה ממציא לנו המצאות? יש הרבה כאלה. אם קוראים, הרב אקלר, מה שאני התעסקתי, ברור שבכל קהילה יש את הרב שרגא, ויש בעל שם טוב כבר דיבר עליו, הרב אקלר, הרב שלמה משיח, היה החזן של הבבא סאלי, הוא היה בוכה בכל תפילה, ככה כתוב, זה התיעוד, נשמע קצת הגזמה, שהרצפה הייתה מתמלאת במים, שהיה מתפעל. איך? היה משדי, עליי משד. הרב שלמה משיח, שהבבא סאלי עלה פעם ראשונה לארץ, אז הוא היה החזן שלו. בשנות ה-50 הבבא סאלי עלה. הוא היה החזן שלו בבית הכנסת של הרב שאול דואק. כן, בטח. הוא היה מקובל מופלג, הרב בן ציון מוצפי אמר לי עליו, הוא נולד במשד. עלה במשד בעל משפחה.
הוא הגיע משם כבר?
הוא הגיע משם צדיק. צדיק גדול. כוונות, למד פה. אבל זה לא משנה, את הלב לא הגיע מלימוד הכוונות. הלב לא מגיע מלימוד הכוונות, זה אתה מבין.
יש לי איזה אסבאו, אני גם מדבר, קשי, יהיו מלחמות כאן.
זהו, אפשר לדבר פה כמה שעות.
לא.
כן. זהו, אני סיימתי. זהו.
מצוין.
אפשר עוד להרבות כאן הרבה, ובאמת אנחנו עושים פה עבודה בעיניי, שהילדים שלנו ודאי יבקו על זה, שלא ניסינו להציל את הדור הזה. חזק וברוך.
שכוח גדול רב יעקב קצביאן. המרצה הבא והאחרון זה אחד שמלבד היותו לומד תורה ותלמיד חכם, הוא גם חקר הרבה ועשה אוסף של ספרים וכתבי יד מפרס, ועכשיו נזכה לשמוע מהדברים שהוא אסף. בכבוד רב שמואל ללזריאן, בכבוד.
Since we're running a little bit late, I'm gonna split this barach into 3 different sections. We have like the modern day Sfarim that were like printed like from nowadays time. Then we have the early Sfarim that were printed in Iran itself, and then we have Kitvei Yad that it was before that time. So just to give a te'ud that Bikaron, Bet HaTfus got to Iran only in 1915. Which means anything that was printed, which I have something from 1918, I'll show you guys soon. Anything that was printed was from 1915 on. That means anything else before that was either put in some kind of balcony and just shipped to Eretz Yisrael or just left back in Iran. So I was very misakre and kola inyanim that we always talk about these things, and I literally went digging physically to find the rayot. You hear about it, people talk about it, but I went physically. Is that I want to see it and I want to feel it. So I'm going to start with the first kitvei yad, and the people that come from this town, they're called Nashnidad. Everyone knows about this? Okay. Huh?
See, I bring you my contrast. Do you know there's a Persian word for par?
For what?
Par. Nashnamas.
What's pan?
Par.
Par.
Par is a Yiddish word. There is a Persian word for it. It's Nashnamas. I think it's from Hamida.
What does it mean?
Nashnamas means par.
What does it literally mean?
I mean, I want to say, well, you instead of
Not Jamie and not
Nashnamas.
So we have it's called Nashnidan. So this was at the Katzeh of Iran. Okay, it's called Urmieh. Okay, so I even asked my father. He said he heard about it, but he never went to visit. So the last Urmieh,
Changed it to Rezayeh.
Rizayeh, during that time
Now they reversed it back, I think, to Urmieh.
to Urmieh. So in Urmieh, like the last 2,000 people that used to be there, they already left. They came to Eretz Yisrael, and they're like a shiluv that they speak like Persian and Arabic. So it sounds like you're about to understand them, but you have no idea what they're saying. But there are people nowadays, like older Urmieh people, they start talking almost like Gemara language. But it's like, it's the borderline. So this, it's Katzeh. Harav yagil lecha bidyuk.
Northern.
It's mamash in the Katzeh.
Northwest, like Turkey.
It's like between Kurdistan, Harav? Is it between Kurdistan and...
Yes.
It's between Kurdistan and Iran. It's like a mix of both, you know? It's a salad. So this is, I don't know exactly, I have to do the math exactly, Tafshin and all that. It's in the 1800s. This is a shtar that I think somebody wanted to borrow. I don't know if it was borrowing money or whatever it is, but it's a shtar that they made. You know, the din says you have to make it when you lend money, whatever it is, you have to physically write it down. So they even have a stamp over here. Now we're talking about roots. This still has the dirt of this thing that was like buried in the ground when they pulled it out. Now I usually take stuff to clean it up. I literally left it. But we're talking about like maybe in the 1840s, if I'm not mistaken. 1830s. Okay? It still has a stamp and the name, and in the name of the Edin that were signed over there, Ed, you know, Hatzair, Avraham ben Moshe Cohen, Hatzair, Yechesker Bacher Yair. And they used to have these kind of stamps, like, you know, like these fancy stamps that they used to stamp. And Baruch Hashem, we're talking about like so there's a lot of not me physically, but somebody else.
Where do you get it from?
Okay. Sure. Okay. So that's I guess we'll have a little.
Where did you get it from?
Rock a little careful. Rock Shirab Zargari could touch it, nobody else.
Where did you get it from?
From collectors. There's collectors. Some of them want to tell me and some of them don't. He doesn't want to tell me, but
You know what type of star it is?
it says it in the star. It says it in the star.
What type of star? It's a...
You'll see it. Look at the end. Urmieh. All the way to the end. It says Ir Urmieh.
What is it?
It's a shtar chov from Urmieh, and the year, if we do the math, if I'm not mistaken, it's either 1860 maybe, or 1820, I think. 1820 or 1830. I'll put a picture over there later, it's fine.
1823.
1820, I thought it was 1830s, 1820s. Okay, Harav, we're going to continue because we have, this is, I will tell you, this is the starter. We have many more coming. Yalla, take a seat. Okay, well, why did I show that first? Because anything that like, if whoever it is that dug that up and saved it, there's like hundreds and hundreds of other stuff that didn't make it, And whatever made it was the stuff that went into Tvus. So I'm going to start a little bit with the Tvus so you get an idea, okay? So this one was printed in Tafresh Einchet, which is 1918. Havarat HaMachzik HaSafa HaIvri. It literally writes the date over here, 1918, Kalimian. That was printed in Tehran itself, you know. Okay? They were very big into... It's not Asar Torah. I have other stuff from Asar Torah. They were very big into taking Hebrew, and then in Persian, they would either say it and translate it afterwards, you know. So that they could say, lechem, and then afterwards you say it says nun. And that's the way that...
What is the book? What is it? What is the book?
It's a dictionary. Yeah, dictionary. Okay, so this is from 1918, okay? Here's another one, also around this time. Tafsir Amun Yom Azharat Liyom Rishon Shel Shavuot. So it has the Azharot from Yomei Shavuot. Also, it was printed in Iran. What I'm showing right now is in Tehran. From the earliest prints that when it opened. So they would take it and they would write it in Hebrew, and then right under it, they would write it in Persian. Okay, this is another one. Going through the whole thing is going to be crazy. Okay. Now we were talking about Otzar Torah. They made a Sidur Mincha Arvit, okay, and they sent it to Otzar Torah. Yeah, whoever is from the other, and they handed it out for all the people that were thing. And this is a regular, Mincha Ma'ariv, obviously starts off with Patach Eliyahu, and it's a mamish a regular thing. But this was like the pocket sitter back then. In the Otzar Torah.
See, my mother just passed away, so we went to take stuff. So I took my parents' ketubah.
Oh.
I'm telling you, it's such a beautiful.
Ani chayav tmuna shel ze.
By the way, it says the chazul lechim
midoraita.
My parents' ketubah, my parents' ketubah is written beautifully in Kerman, no mistakes. The chazul lechim midoraita.
So Rabbi Zarga is going to bring me to the next thing, a ketuvot. I was going to wait for a little bit later, but I have two ketuvot that were written in Iran. One is a little atik from the 1930s, which was written in a book form, and another one was from Pinchasian. I would assume it's some kind of family somewhere, Pinchasi. So the one that was Khatum over there that married them off was Rabbeinu Yosef Chaim Shraga. He was the Rav of the Tehran at that time. Okay, he was the Mullah of Tehran at that time, and he had a brother over there. If it was only them two signing on it, it would be Pasule Edut, but they had other Edim. So my heart kind of fell when I saw that one. Okay, but they have this signature like Hagaon Chida used to write. It was mamish like a picture. Okay. But again, this is later times. They already printed this thing, This thing was already printed in Iran. But we have Rabbeinu Yosef Chaim Shraga. It has it looks like a little menorah, but they literally drew the picture, like the way Hagaon Chida used to make the whole thing. And then he had Hatzair, his brother right over here, filed. They were sign on this side. They had their official stamp, but supposedly he was the Rav Rashi of Tehran at that time, and they had also other edim. So Baruch Hashem, we're good. We're covered.
See, in Iran there was a minhag. The relatives they all would sign the ketubah.
Is that why you want to be mechaber?
No, but they would say this is Ed. The other ones didn't say Ed. And my parents ketubah.
Yeah. The certain ones say Ed. The certain ones are not. Okay, Rabotai. Certain people that saw this, they were studying about Tzilaz, it has to be one piece. Now, I don't know if this originally was one piece, but the way it was presented was a Kmo Sefer, okay? So at the beginning, this is literally a little ink. They literally made the drawings themselves, and like you see in the back, they literally got the whole paper. I'm about to show you. Okay, it starts out with Besimana Tava, Besiyada Dishmaya, ba 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 ba. And then it starts off. You open it up. Okay. It starts off going in a book form. Kedat Moshe Israel, and it has the Doraita here. Okay, this is the 1930s. Okay, you see Tehran in big, Iran, Kedat Moshe Israel, over and over.
This is also, they took it from the Muslims.
Is that what it is?
Muslims, their ketubah Ketubot was, and they had to. You see, they would give them permission. Muslims for the
to give them the issue to do
like
this.
They had to follow the same format. So there are a lot of Ketubot like that. It's like a booklet.
Oh wow. Okay. So the next one over here we have, okay. He was also, it's Mituad, he was the Rabban Shel Tehran, okay? Now, there wasn't Sfarim back then, so every piece of paper or whatever it was like a very big deal. So this was his book, and like physically, he mamish kitvei yad. So again, once you're a rabbi of a thing, his name was Harav Ephraim ben Yosef, Meir Tehran. And he himself writes the Khatima. So they had a very big thing about the Seder HaTkufot. They always, like, since the Rosh Chodesh, Vidvarim Kaele, they would always be Metuad, the Tkufot, and write it down. And sometimes you could even see the years it was, you know. So over here, this whole thing is a Sefer Shalem, a Kitvei Yad of his. And again, like previously, like you saw by Rabbi Yosef Chaim.
How many years ago is this?
Okay.
This is Kitvei Yad?
This is his Kitvei Yad, yeah. It looks like mamish, like a picture, like Hagaon Chida. The content starts. It's in Hebrew. The content starts over here. Sazul Mazal Achareze. It continues. Parshat Hashavua. You know, come on, Parshat Vayera. After this, it has a shtickle Kabbalah.
It's a personal Yoman.
Bamash Kabbalah. After this, okay, and this is the main thing I wanted to show you guys. Inside, then he goes on Masechtot al Hashas. Okay. Look what he writes when he got to Masechet Yevamot. Okay? Sha'aluni talmidim ve'yididim ruchi Hashem yishmerem v'chayem. And then after this, he starts that they asked me blah, 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 blah. And this is my tshuva. That means they were learning either Mishnayot and the Sugyot. And he's like, I'm going to tell you what the question came up. And let me tell you what the answer was. So I'm still trying to find that out, but if he's like Rabbah Shel Tehran, and also Rabbi Yosef Chaim was Rabban Shel Tehran, how many Rabban of Tehran you have? So I have an archion of his that also has Sfarim that were printed, but it was shtickle from Eretz Yisrael Livorno. So it has to maybe before the Rebbe could add over there. Was it before Rabbi Yosef Chaim Shraga? I'm not sure. I'm still trying to find out. Lo katuv ani be'emsa lachkor et ze.
Tehran is only 600 years.
But the way you could find out is by this next thing. I'm not going to go through the whole archion. Ish archion shalem shel kol minei dvarim. This is a smicha of shchita that he gave, okay? And it could be there's a year there, so based on that, okay? That, again, Harav Chaim is that he gave over here, it says, Behanu zivchu zivchi tzedek, he wrote a whole thing over here, and he gave this, and he's chatum at the end, as you can see over here. He's chatum over here, Ani Akatan, in the middle over here, you'll see his name comes up. But it was mamish like, how do you say, משהו לשחיטה. עכשיו, I would assume this was for Iran, and they were in Iran for the purpose of Iran. That's what I'm assuming. Okay.
The date there?
So I didn't go through it, but there usually is. There always has to be a date. There always. Sometimes they do it in. דיברנו על הסתדרות הציוניות. יש גם כמה מכתבים פה מזה. Okay. In his also thing, also they're very big into Ktuvot and Gitin. Back in Paras, Kaniyeh, they like that stuff. We're going to go weiter.
There's not much Gitin. They didn't write it yet.
Okay, so the next thing I have is we all heard of Sir Moses Montefiore. We all heard about him.
Got to Iran.
He also his hand got to Iran. So I was babish zoiche to get my hands. Mamash kilu b'derech she'adam rotzeh ba molechin oto. All this started that.
Professor Kibuyu or something?
What was that?
You do chakira.
So how did this start? I was 20 years ago learning the Ben Ish Chai, and before Salem brought on the new copy, היו הרבה, אתה מבין אנגלית? חבל. Everybody understands, okay, because בשביל, לא משנה. בקיצור, so there's a lot of mistakes in the previous Ben Ish Chai, which wasn't even supposed to be printed. He didn't have the right to print that, אבל לא משנה. And Salem was the only one that was supposed to print it. No. It has the Chativa Chamilala, but he was molded that there was a big mistake. Lo mishane. So there's a lot of mistakes there, and I'm saying, Kama ta'uot sofer. So let me find an older print. So I found in the Bukharim older prints, and I found all the pub mistakes. I went to Chamilal, I'm like, Rabbi, what is this? Full of mistakes. I want to get my Chamilel, Cham Yaakov Hillel. It's like, I wish I had the first print. The first print is always right. It's impossible to get this stuff. He's like, never say it's impossible. That year, I was able to get my hands on the second print of the Ben Ish Chai. Hitvisu et zeh beBaghdad. And when I found it over there, I found that all the mistakes of Ta'ut Sofer, that was written right. It could be with a vav, with a hey, everything was turned around. So I'm like, wait 1 second. If I could get my hands on something this old from Baghdad, because the guy told me in Neve Yaakov, I have it. I didn't believe him. I got on a bus straight to Neve Yaakov. I on the spot bought it from him. So I started looking. I'm like, wait 1 second. So maybe there's also Persian stuff. And that's kacha nichlasnu leze. As b'kitzur, so in Iran they also stretched their hands out to Sir Moses Montefiore, and I was zoichet to get my hands on the letter that they sent out to him personally. So I know from Esfahan they also sent it from, and I'm not sure this one is. I didn't go through the whole thing yet, but this is very sensitive paper. I don't know how they got it so thin. Okay. But this is the thing, as you can see over here, it starts off with Isha Chassid, blah, 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 blah. They give him a big toar, and then they throw his name in, Moshe Montefiore. And why is this so important? There's other documents in Chatimot Shelo. Lama ze kol kach miyuchad? Then they start the mituad, all the badbachti and hardship they're going to and why they need the money. So this is a piece of history. You know, we were saying about Amarta levakesh la'anashim, מה קרה עם הסבא וסבתא? אז פה הם מתארים למה הם צריכים את הכסף וכל זה, and at the end, obviously you always got to throw in the chatimot, the rabbanim over there, so I'm not sure if all these rabbanim are somebody special, but again, Harav Yosef Chaim or Shraga, the second you put Shraga on that, it gives a big bite. He's also chatum on this, okay? So this was a very, 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 very delicate, thin paper.
Which year is that from?
I don't know the date on this.
It's double-sided, the paper itself?
Yeah. It's on the same paper. On the same paper. Okay, but it has to be during the time that he was alive. Okay, we save that one for afterwards? Okay. Now, Mechon HaTzvi also has something. There's somebody that uses a kitzur of Harav HaTzvi Avia Nuro. So they weren't sure exactly who it was, but they were choker, and they have a little bit of honest thing. So this is also another personal, you want to call archion, okay? I wasn't able to find out exactly all the details, but he would write over here, Ayin Ploni Almoni, Ayin this Sefer, Ayin Shulchan Aruch, Ayin all this. It's 6 leaflets, that he writes all these different kind of stuff over here. It's very delicate, so I don't want to start, ripping it apart, But literally, it's like they didn't have too much paper. So they would make a little box, and only what was hechrich, that he was scared he's going to forget, that's what they wrote down. Okay?
Who is this from?
Okay? I'm in the middle of finding out exactly the details, but first before, okay. Ayin Siman Memvav Seiv Katan Chalef, Seiv Katan Chaf, Tekaru B'Shem, and then he starts going through the whole thing. Okay? Yeah. Shulchan Aruch. Okay. Ayin Ovid Dinar. Because a lot of it is shaded out. Okay? A lot of it is shaded out. They're very big into shchita. I don't know what. Everything was like a lot of stuff on shchita. Yeah, very, very big on it. Okay.
Very much halacha l'maaseh.
Right. Okay, so
everything is going to be in your book.
אנחנו לפני שמתחילים צריכים להשיג את החומר ואז להכניס את זה, okay? Okay, this was another one. Who's the one that was saying, מי אמר את זה? נראה לי כבודו, כל הקטע שאז they were talking about, there was Torah, but then the Rabbanim were scared that it was going to be forgotten, okay? So this is a sefer that I got some Ashkenaz guy. He had no idea what it was, so I was able to chaparayin. Okay? He had no clue what it was. It was passed down through so many hands that I got there. This is a Pirush on Mishnayot. Now, why was this so chashuv? I ran into a lot of these stuff. I'm not into there's a lot of kitviyah that they just recopied it. I wasn't interested in that. He wrote an introduction here, okay? Again, his name is Rav Moshe, but I don't know exactly who he was. It says his name over here, Kitzer. He writes over here why he wrote it. And I'm going to just really quick, just a little kapitel from over here. He states over here in Hebrew, Bar uti hatza'ir ha'katan shebetalmidim et dor hamebulbal Okay, and he continues Yom Tsarot, and he explains, there's a lot of tsarot during that time. Mitchachim ve'anshei Torani, dahainu rabbanim, people that are interested in that, holchim v'dalim ve'en doresh ve'mevakesh Torah mirov hatzarot. And then he continues and he says this, Ani Atzair, Bekitzer, he goes through this whole thing that my Rebbe, I'm still going through that. And then he explains that his Rebbe, Nachon, he says, I'm a Talmud, okay, Uvavonotenu Arabim, Sheniftar Rabbeinu Umoreinu, and then he says the name of his Rebbe, okay, Tifartenu v'yesodatenu Rabbi Rachamim, okay? And he says, after he was nifter, I was scared that the Torah is going to be forgotten as kibalti kocho to sit down and write this. So Torah, shelo nishkach Torah mi'ayeladim. Okay, here's another one. I was trying to find out the date. I couldn't. But somebody from Iran. Oh yes, Rabbi Zayga is my Rebbe. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Okay, somebody like אני לא אוהב שעושים את זה, אחד מהדברים שעצבנו אותי, when people get their hands on כתבי יד and they start writing stuff inside. Okay, so somebody in Iran in 1929 had this from his grandparents, and they wrote it over here. May 14, 29, which is not a good thing of it. Okay, this guy.
This was very common.
Right.
You would get the old Sfarim
and then they would stamp their thing on it. Okay, so supposedly inside here he has the shtickle things on Kabbalah and all that kind of stuff. But what's a little more interesting on our end, I just wanted to show you, was he has the tafsir. You guys know what a tafsir means? Okay. It says over here, Atchil lichtov targum shir hashirim be'ezrat hakel. Okay, and you see the way he actually even designs the top with the whole with his own the decision, and he'll bring a shtickle from Shir HaShirim and then start explaining it in Persian, So it would be Shir HaShirim, and you could kind of understand it, but it's the old. He probably elaborates on it for the Am Haaretz. They didn't know, I was trying to figure out the date, I couldn't find it yet, but it's for sure before 1929. It could be late 1800s, early 1900s. The guy that sold it to me had no idea there was a tafsir shalom at the end. He had no idea. Okay? And those are the best people that you buy from. But literally goes through the whole thing, Yonati Chamati, the whole entire thing, and he goes through. Now, they had a shtick that they used to write at the end of the Sefer, because snakes and lizards or whatever it is used to come and nibble away at Sfarim. So they used to write at the end some kind of pasuk, neged snakes, so they won't come all of a sudden and start eating and biting it away, once they're not away. So it actually has that, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And this is just the top of it before we get to some grand finales, okay? This is also another one. It's so mishkababbled and ripped and torn apart, okay? But I just brought it just so you guys because this one here. Look at this. For example, I found inside the whole balagan Hilchot Kriya Shema Ubirchotea. Okay, it could be copied straight from Aran, okay, but it was only one leaf. But the rest of it is just a whole bunch of zachim of kmiyot and Kabbalah. And in Hebrew, Kol Minei Shemot, look, they used to, all these, whoever is familiar with these kmiyot, they used to make circles and lines and a whole bunch of things.
Look at it afterwards.
Bekitzer, it's
somebody, if you come to LA and say
Mekubala Eloki.
you're interested in old, who knows?
People have no idea this stuff exists. People have no idea. No, why are we making this mudaud? Because they have no idea. Okay. There's one.
This is the writing that they write in. Is it chatzik kulmus? It's regular.
It's like a good old Sephardi. Yeah. Like the mem looks like an aleph, and like it's very hard to read at the beginning.
You have to realize, Persian Jews were the only at one time literate people, and the only kitab that they knew is like this Rashi.
כמו ש...
My father used to tell me, I read the Kuntres, he had a shutaf, and before he went to Chinuch, he was at the party and he had a store or something, and his shutaf would write all the cheshbonot, and that's the only kitab they know. Rashi, it's like, Rashi letters are parsit.
נכון,
The
נכון.
Safa parsit.
בדיוק.
So you see, the goyim would come to them and they want to kamea. So this guy would take part of his cheshbonot, give it,
Fold it up.
and the guy would come back, oh, bring gifts.
גאונות.
But this, you have to know, the Jews were the only literate people, and this is the only kitab they knew. They knew just Rashi. That's what they taught in all the
Even in the schools.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So Rabbatai, I'm not going to go through all of it, but Rabbi Rachamim Melamed HaKohen, this is like the minimum, shiba minimum. Whether you're Shirazi or Teherani, Zelom Shaneh, you have to know who this is. Okay. So over here I have 4 of his Svarim. One of them are written in Hebrew. One of them are written in Hebrew Persian. Another one is on Zohar Kadosh, and another one is on Pirkei Avot. Okay. Just to give a really quick, just who he was not able to have kids when he was in Shiraz in the late 1800s. Okay, so and he was a Rav there. He was called Mola Kuchik. Why? Because until around age 11, 12, he was already a big darshan. So and that name stuck to him, Mola Kuchik. So he wanted to go to Baghdad to pray at the kever of Ezra Sofer. So there was a big fight. Should he go? Should he not go? His in-laws always obviously get involved. So what does a good person do? En baya, turned around, ran away, and went to Baghdad. Okay? While he was in Baghdad, he said, if I'm already here, let me go meet the Ben Ish Chai. So he went and met the Ben Ish Chai, and the Masoret has it, for 15 minutes, Ben Ish Chai put his hands on top of his head, gave him a bracha, and said, you have to go to Eretz Yisrael. So what Harab Bar Osher mentioned of all those shuls, that his son married him off, Rabbi Ezra. If you see his picture, Rabbi Ezra, Rachamim Kohen, it's Shekhinah, it's scary. Rabbi Ezra, huh? Yeah, okay. But this is the father. So while the father was there, he kibel besorah, that he was nolad ben. So he called it Ezra. Why? Because he shtateach al kivro shel Ezra Sofer. And when he came here, hayalo od ach Yaakov. He had one other child. So he used to learn Kabbalah with Rav Kook, the one and only Rav Kook of that everyone knows of. Ad kidei kach that when he was nifter, Rabbi Rachamim Kohen, they went by the mipeset of Rav Kook, and Rav Kook stopped the levaya, and he gave it 10-15 minutes a shtickle hesped on him. That means he had a humongous sifriya in Shiraz. He left it there, ran away from the community because they wouldn't let him leave. Eventually got over here and lost his entire sifriya. That means what he had is over here. He cried and rewrote again, and so he was. And if you see his picture, he looks like Chachmei Baghdad, And he got here, and his son, not too long ago, passed away. If you see his picture, it's unbelievable. He was a professor in Hebrew and he wrote Al Talmud Bavli. Yeah, over 60 Sfarim, and they gave him a Teuda, Pras Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael. He wrote a dictionary also. Unbelievable. I'll show you guys a picture. If you guys are already here, you have to at least see his picture. He looks like Chachmei. He looks like.
People use his sefer in LA.
Yeah. So the older ones over here tell me like I remember my.
Well,
I don't have it. Right. Okay, so we're almost towards the end. Okay, so this year somebody calls me and they're like, "You're into this stuff." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I have the Ktav Yad Kodsho of Rabbi Rachamim Melamed HaKohen." I'm like, "Okay." I'm not going to even ask it. I'm buying it. En davar kazeh. I don't know if it's maybe it's a before he wrote his sefer. They write different. I don't know what it is. I'll buy it. I come over there and I'm like, why are you lying to me? This is not him. He's like, Katuv po, Rabbi Rachamim Melamed Babai HaKohen. Why Babai? Shem Chiba. He was Babai. אמרתי, עליי אתה לא יכול לעבוד. השם חיבה שלו זה מולה קוצ'יק. אני דיברתי איתך ואתה לא חזרת אליי. As Amarti, he wanted to sell to me for a lot of money. I said, this is not Rabbi Racham Melamed HaKohen. His Shem Chiva was Mola Kuchik. Aval Bechol Mikra, I'm going to buy it. Why? His father passed away this past year. And his father hugged this farm and didn't let it go. And only after 80 years, the father already passed away. The kids have no idea what it is. So I chapped the Ryan. I said, listen, matan tasu im zeh. He said, we wanted to put it in print. I'm like, okay, you're not going to put it in print. So I was zeichet to buy it. A pirush on the entire Torah. Chamisha Chumshe Torah. I didn't bring the whole entire thing with me, but I brought one just to show you guys what an amazing ktav they had. Who is he? Another undercover Rav that we don't know about. So I found out his son's kever that was printed over here, and it says his son's name, Ben Mola Babai Rachamim Cohen. So there's got to be somebody that knows about him, okay?
Which city?
And this was also in the 1920s, okay? But the ktav is so nice. It's like laser print nice, you know. Bezat Hashem, Akel Gibor VaNora, Atchil Lichtov Drushut Al Torah Parasha Bereshit. So he says Parasha Bereshit, Nachon. Okay, and he starts off, you know. Vet Haaretz Chachamim Mifar Mayad, and he starts talking. So it's in Persian also. So the guy's like, you know what? It's in Persian. I'm never gonna put it into print. Sell it.
It doesn't say where he's from.
You know. And at the end is what I wanted to tell you is where he has his name over here. Hatzair, okay? Babai Melamed HaKohen, and he comes over here and he says Bishnat Tafresh Ein Hei. Okay, Mar Cheshbon Shnat Tafresh Ein Hei. Okay? This one thing is only on Bereshit. I didn't get an answer. Shalachti meser lezeh. I'm still choker, but again, first you take it before it gets lost. After you ask questions. Okay. Okay. Grand finale, Rabbi. This is grand finale. Okay. Whoever wants to leave can leave right now. We spoke about Mola or Shraga. Okay. Harav Isakian mentioned Mola or Shraga. Okay. I will tell you, most Persians have no idea who he is. And I've asked a lot of people; they have no idea who he is. But he's the biggest gava us Persians have to have is Mola or Shraga. Mola or Shraga passed away 1793, 1794. Okay, there is two ktavim of his that he wrote to the Mashad community and the other community to give donation to Hebron and stuff like that. But it's locked up in the museum. There was one ktav that went for sale in 2016. And unfortunately, that also went, okay? But there is his son, Rabbi Moshe, and his grandson, Harav Yitzchak, okay? Harav Yitzchak is this one, Chok Le Yitzchak. As you guys can see, this is the kever of Mola or Shraga in Iran. An Arab guy built this up. A miracle happened to him, and he was memamenet and anything. So Dr. Shmuel Shraga found his kitvei yad in the museum. So he's pretty big shot in Hadassah and Kerem, and he's very close with the big guns. He got his hand on it and he put it into print. It's ala Torah, okay? Harav Yitzchak Shraga. Dahainu, it's the neched, mamash neched. Tamid omrim neched nin, hu mamash a neched, okay? So I always remember what Chamila told me. Harav David is the great grandson, and Harav Baruch Shraga is the great grandson. Okay, so I was Baruch Hashem zoiche to get my hands on a ktav yad kodsho of Rabbi Yitzchak and a sefer that he bought in Hebron as Ma'alin B'Kodesh. This was a sefer that he himself bought in the 1880s. Okay. In his personal sefer that he bought, it's called the Azharot LeHagaon Rabbi Yitzchak ben Reuven. It was printed in Livorno, but over here on the top, he writes Hatzair Yitzchak ben Moshe ben Mola or Shraga Shnat Ploni Almoni. And obviously, when like Rabbi Zargari mentioned, when the family gets their hand on it, one of his family members added on Zeh Sefer Harav Rabbeinu Yitzchak Kana be'ir Tiberia, bischut yom matan Torah, and he continues to write why he actually bought it. Okay, so I was like, you know what, that's cute. So it's his sefer, but why did I buy it if that's all there is about him? And then I found out. Okay, Baruch Hashem, the guy didn't know about this. Azharot Rabbi Shlomo ben Gavriel, he went on top of all the different Hebrew names, I guess more the harder ones to translate, and translated all in Persian on top.
Hebrew Persian?
Okay, and it continues. Ruth Yom Rishon, mamish little harot he made on different mekomot. Okay, and the grand finale is one of his chidushim. Okay, that we have over here. This is the closest Holy Grail. There is other stuff, that you're going to get to Bona or Shraga, and he has this chatima towards the end. Over here, it's written over there, but
What is it? How did you get this in the Shraga family?
this is the closest you're going to get to Mola or Shraga. There is somebody I know that has his son, Rabbi Moshe, of Tafsir on Tehillim, but he's an Esfahani guy and he doesn't want to let it go. But this is his Ktav Yad. I don't remember if it was on Megillah or on Purim. Shtikul Torah on Purim. Yeah? No, in Hebrew. Okay. ואחד הבאתי לכבוד הרב זרגרי. I didn't want to bring this, but I brought this. This is like Chatima before Khomeini. And another one, הרב כתב על הבן איש חי. וחמילאל אמר לי, when there's a will, there's a way, נכון? אז ברוך השם זכיתי to get also a leaflet from Ben Yoyada, כתב יד קודשו, של רביני יוסף חיים. Somebody knew that I do this kind of stuff. They gave it to me for a birthday present for my wedding. God's the world today. I'm going to keep it over here. But this is the כתב יד קודשו of the Ben Ish Chai on Ben Yoyada, Yud Dalet Aleph. Whoever, מי שמכיר את הכתב יד, יכול להגיד, this is this one I'll bring you closer.
How much you selling it for? How much you want for it? Keep this stuff in. You have a safe at home or your bank or something?
אני לא מגלים איפה שומרים את כל זה.
I didn't see my house.
So they have a lot of kitvei yad of the Ben Ish Chai here and there, but it's on drashot and stuff like that. But ala shas on the Gemara, it's nadir. So that's one thing. And just to top it off with a little cream, okay? Before.
Did they print it? Or?
Which one?
Yeah,
It's Ben Yoda. זה פשוט הכתב יד קודשו שלו, okay? We spoke about Otzar Torah, okay? We spoke about Netaneli. When Rabbi Netaneli was in Otzar Torah, one of the teachers came to him and asked him, Arav, I'm going to Eretz Yisrael. I need a michtav to forget mi ani. I'm going to get to Eretz Yisrael. They're not going to know who I am, okay? So here we have one of the documents, okay? Hinenu ma'asher bezeh, ba, and we have Harav Netaneli, Harav Yehoshua Netaneli Chatum on it, from Otzar Torah, נדבר על זה אחרי זה. Okay.
It's like Mary Jane
What does it say? What does it say?
And it mentions the person over there.
Who was it to?
Min hamlatza,
Who's the guy?
Two people signed.
Who's the name?
Yeah.
Say the name. No, who's the guy that he wrote it for?
And this is also another one from Otot Kufa when they wanted to come. When they wanted to come, can't mention it. So when they wanted to come, they always got these hamlatzot. So I thought that's something. This is from Shiraz itself, Otzar Torah, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, grand finale. And הרב, אני הבאתי את זה במיוחד, לא רציתי להביא את זה, okay? רב ידידיה שופט and Harav Uriel Davidi sent a letter to Rav Ovadia, and they wanted to make a takanot in the 1970s about a different Yerushas and a whole bunch of Zach. So they sent, in the 1976, they sent this to Chaim Ovadia. Baruch Hashem, somebody that had no idea what he was doing, got his hands on it, and I was able to fool him and take away that thing with the Chatima of Rav Yedidia Shofet and Rav Uriel Davidi, it's a 6-page thing, that what they said to Rav Ovadia to see if you could make the hatkanot and to send. So I don't have the letter that was sent back, but this was the letter that was sent to Chaim Ovadia, and this came out of his archives. After he passed away, they started taking out boxes and boxes, and paras, they don't manyan otam. So Baruch Hashem, we were able to get our hands, but this it's a 6-page document.
See, you know, the Rav Ovadia made in Iran takanat chatzi zachar. Girls, this is.
He made this shayla.
What?
He told me his father made it. He signed it. They wrote the whole thing.
Who told you?
Hashem told him. So he remember his father writing it.
But you see, you should know. I once brought the group from Iran to tour, and we went to Rav Ovadia. So somebody from the group said, "Ask Rav Ovadia the takana that he made. Was it just for Iran, or it's stuff in Los Angeles also?" I asked Rav Ovadia. He said, "No, the Iraq Bishop Paras."
Yeah?
Why would that be?
Why would that be? He said over there was pressure. They were saying,
What was the takana? Takana that what?
that the girl also gets Jerusalem.
So hatochen shel advarim ze po. So this is the letter that was sent to him. This is his chatima right here.
They wrote 6 pages.
Yeah.
Something was very clear that way. He remembers his father
It's
writing
it's very famous. But again, then I asked for Baruch Shraga. He said, "No, let it be. It's good."
He still does it. He still does it sometimes.
What?
He's still mitzvah for him.
I told him, I just came from Rav Ovadia. Rav Ovadia said it's only work for Iran. He said, "No, let it be. It's good. It's good."
Baruch Adonai leolam, amen v'amen.
Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. Thank you to all the speakers. B'ezrat Hashem, it should be a night that brings us chizuk for the whole community.